Good evening, everyone. I'll declare the meeting open at 5:30 p.m. For those in the gallery, welcome. And I think there's a couple of questions coming up at one point. So this meeting is recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced or reused or transmitted without prior written consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and will be made publicly available on Council's website. Persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people, and we respect the history and culture of elders both past and present. Now, Janet Clayton was going to be here to give the prayer, so we'll continue on, and if she turns up, we'll go back to the prayer. So, record of attendance, there's no leave of absence been asked for. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. There is a presentation tonight, and that is from John Thompson, who is our Auditor General appointed auditor, and he'll be providing a presentation on our audited financial statements and the auditor's report for the year ending 30th of June 2023.
He's on. I'm just providing him to the. No.
There we are. Good evening, Mayor. I'm here now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, John.
Right. Thank you, Matt. All right. I'll just thanks very much for having me along. So I'll just get my slides, and actually, have you got them, Matt, as well? Are you presenting them on your end?
We do, John, and we'll share them from our end just so we can manage the different screens and media.
Yeah, that would be good. So we just go to the first page.
If you just give me a second to do that, I'll share it so you can say it. Give me half a second.
Thank you.
No, she's not, but she can. I just think we should do that before we have the presentation.
Robin, if Janet doesn't turn up, will you do the prayer?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it after this presentation. Oh, in fact, do it now. Do it now.
Heavenly Father, we praise you and we give you all the glory. And we come together today for meeting of council for the betterment of the community and the surrounds. And I ask, Lord, that you lead each one into honesty and forthright discussion, and anything else, Lord, that you bring to mind. Thank you, and I give you all the glory. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rob. All right, John.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. Is that on your screens now? I can't see it on my screen, is it?
Just give me a second. It hasn't come across.
A nice view of a castle. I think that was probably you're suggesting that Oberon's building a castle, is it?
Yes, Andrew. That's according to the audit office. Yes, your view will be more at the back end of the presentation. So watch this space here. I'll just wait, just so if someone can give me a signal once it's up and running, and I'll start.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, look at that.
Then I'll start on that, mate.
What's the picture of it?
More frames, all right.
If you like, Matt, I can share my screen and go for it there if you like. That's easier.
If that works, that's
Yeah,
fine.
okay. John, do you want to try and share that
Sure.
and see if it's working?
Sure. Let me try that now. Share screen. Post disable participant screen sharing, so I can't share it by the look of it.
Why don't you just come on?
Looks like Bondi Beach,
Newcastle.
Newcastle, sorry.
Yeah, I think a few people have said that. I actually think it might be Newcastle as well.
Ships would be off Bondi.
He can't see it.
That's right.
Right. So John, we have the slides now on our end. You just might not be able to see them, but
That's okay. I
you
can
might
work
be able
with
to
that.
talk through your presentation because you've got them in front of you as well.
Thank you,
So,
Matt.
yeah.
Okay, so we're on page one with our picture of Newcastle, not Oberon. All right, so I'll commence now. So, good evening, Mayor Mark Kellum, Deputy Mayor Andrew McKibben, and councillors. Thank you very much for the invitation to present to the Oberon Council. For those that don't know me, my name's John Thompson. I'm a partner at Intentus, working with the Audit Office New South Wales as the audit service provider for you. I'm here to give you an update on the report on the Oberon Council and the results. All right, if we go to the next page, so we'll have the report on the status of the... Tell me when you're there.
I'm not there. This is not working at all. Can you see that yet, John?
Can you see that, John?
I can, yes. That's okay. Okay, so if you just go back up one.
Yep.
Can you see that?
We're on the income statement. John, can you see that?
No, I can't. But if you just go back one screen to the one prior to that, and I'll just go through. There's a report on the status of the 2023 financial audit. If you go back to that screen, that's fine. Just the one prior to that. But if not, I'll just talk you through it. So I'll keep going anyway. Yeah, that's it. That's great. Thank you. So I'll now turn to our report on the conduct of the audit, included in the attachments in today's papers, but also obviously on the screen. We've completed our audit of the general purpose and special purpose financial statements and relevant special schedules. I'm pleased to report to you today that we issued an unqualified audit report or a clean audit opinion on your council's financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2023, which means the financial statements contain no material misstatements and present fairly. As part of the audit process, Council's Audit Risk and Compliance Committee, or ARIC, has reviewed the financial statements at draft level, and results of our audit will be provided in a management level as well for ARIC to review in due course. The Office of Local Government's Code sets out what needs to be covered by the report of the conduct of the audit. And for those that have looked at the financial statements or have them, you'll see the ratios in Note G51. The 6 key ratios, I will go through those in the slide so we can stay where we are for now. 6 key performance ratios that get audited within the general purpose financial statements. So council has met the industry benchmark set by the OLG for 4 out of the 6 financial performance ratios in 2023. We will go through those. The results are also in the rocker, which may or may not be in your papers. I'm not sure, but otherwise they will be found on council's website as well if you need to look at those. As the council can see, council didn't meet its own source operating revenue ratio. I will go to that. We'll go back. We'll touch on that once we get there. In fact, why don't we just go forward if you can flick through to page, I think it's page 4. Just another one. Yep, there we go. Okay, so the next one down from there. That's it, own source operating revenue. So as you can see there, the ratio has further declined from last year, largely due to the relatively large component of around 60% of total revenue is made up of operational and capital grants received. So they get excluded out of the top line, but in the ratio, they sit in the bottom line. So obviously, the larger the grants, the smaller the number. So we know in the last couple of years, we've had large grants. This year, even larger. And so unfortunately, that's what happens to the ratio. So I wouldn't personally read too much into that. I think that's just a function of the formula. And if we go back to the one previously, I just would like to show you that one. So you can see the benchmark 60% set by the OLG there. If we go back to the previous, just go back up one more. Okay, so the operating performance ratio. So you can see there that you're actually, so how well do you, what sort of income have you got? Operating income do you raise in terms of funding your operating expenditure? And that is probably, to me, more important for you. So that flicks around into the positive, which actually means that you're raising sufficient operational revenue. So let's exclude the grants out of it to pay for your expenses. So, and if you just go back down one more there. Sorry, back down from there. Yes. Okay, so here we can just, sorry. Yes, here. So here we can see again, there's the own source operating revenue. Very, very similar to last year. So that is actually, when you look at your total revenue, 32.7 million minus your 19.8 for grants and contributions, you get the 12,891. So that's again saying, even though it's lower than last year, you must have managed your expenses even better than that to actually improve your operating performance ratio, which is the one we just saw. So thank you for that. And if we go down to the next one, if you scroll down, so one more, I think there's a rates and annual charges outstanding percentage ratio. So let's go down again. There we go. Okay, so we just, apologies for flicking around, but I think this is probably important just to try and explain it all for you. So the second ratio that wasn't met was the rates and annual charges outstanding ratio. So you've got to sit, the OLG benchmark there is below 10%. So that's basically saying how well are you collecting your rates. And so, 2021 was good. 2022 was even better. 2023 went the other way. So it actually worked against you there. I will speak to that slide while we've got it. So basically, effectively, you had 7.457% 2021, 6.44%, so again under the 10, and then this year it blew out to 16.22%. And in dollar terms, it moved from about 454,000 in 2022 to about 1.14 mil in 2023. Now, before And so what I would like to do is just point out why we weren't concerned with that. And that's basically due to the change between your financial systems. So in this financial year, Oberon Council moved from Synergy which is Civica, to Open Office. During that period, particularly in that from I suppose April, May, and June, Council was unable to issue reminder notices to its ratepayers for the last 2 months of the year. So therefore, what your ratepayers would normally be given that annual push, that usual push to pay rates on time, and obviously this, I think, has been the main determinant why. There could be other reasons, but the main determinant why the rates weren't, the ratio was pushed out this year. You did not have the follow-up reminder notices that Council normally has. So I don't think it's an inherent issue. I think it's to do with that change in software this year. So that's the other thing I wanted to make on that. I'll leave questions till the end, but I'm happy to take questions. If we then just go back to the income statement, which I think was probably the third page in the presentation. So if we go back up now to the income statement, and I'll take you through the key items of income and the operating result. Rightio, there we go. Good, thank you. So you'll see 2023 numbers, 2022, and then your variance and the trend, which way it's improved or decreased from last year. So the first one being rates and annual charges revenue of 6.7 million. So it increased by 0.2 million or 3% in 2023, and that's largely due to your rate peg of 2.1%. And you had a budgeted 10% increase in water and sewer access charges. So those combined have contributed to the 3% increase. Second line, grants contributions, 19.8 million. So that increased by 2.7 million from 2022, or about 15.7% in percentage terms from last year. Main reasons for that increase of 2.7, you had a 1.3 million increase in grants recognised for the Community Hub project under the Drought Stimulus Program. You also received effectively all of, but they call it it's 94% of your financial assistance grant. So in other words, that was paid in advance. The reason why they say 94 because the last bit can't be determined yet, and it will as we roll into the 2024 year. So they pay the last bit really then, but effectively the financial assistance grant was paid in advance. You had an increase of 1 million in grants recognised for storm and flood damage due to the major flood events that happened in June 22. And then there was some small amount, 300,000 in funding for pothole repairs under the Fixing Local Roads program. So next one down, the council's operating result from continuing operations was 10.9 million or 11 million, including depreciation, amortisation and impairment. And that was about 5.5. So you strip that out, it's even more significant in cash terms. So this was about 5.6 million or 5.4, I think it is on that slide, higher than the 2022 result. And the last one being the net operating result before your capital grants. So remember I said that was a big number. So 19.8. So reverse that out and you actually mark $200,000 in the black. So that again is a positive result for council and a significant improvement on the 2022 year. So that's all I want to say there. And I think the 2022 result had a loss on disposal of assets. I think, sorry, the 2023 only had a 0.7 million loss on disposal of assets. So the 2022 year had a $3.6 million loss in disposal of assets. So that can explain some of that variation between year to year. All right. If we go down to the operating performance revenue, I think we've talked about that one, so we can just go straight through that one and straight through the own source operating revenue. So we've talked about that. And then unrestricted. So I think you might have just got there. So go back up one. Yes, that's it. Thank you. So unrestricted current ratio. So you can see council exceeded the benchmark for the current reporting period, 2023, as it did in the previous 2 years. And effectively, that's a liquidity ratio, if you like. So it's sort of looking at current assets, current liabilities. How does that look for council? The unrestricted current ratio, so specific to local government, so it's a slightly different formula for it, but it represents council's ability to meet its short-term obligations as they fall due. So benchmark's 1.5, and you've clearly exceeded that every year, so that's a good result. If you go through to the debt service cover ratio, again, so this one talks about it measures your operating cash to service debt, including interest, principal, and repayments. Now, and lease payments, sorry. So again, you've got 9.96 times in 2021, you've got 4.52 times 2022, and then 8.88. So I would guess that there's a combination here, but obviously this is another thing that says, well, how well can you cover your debt? Your short-term debt. Now, the short answer is very well. The second one is you've got more cash in because I would suggest that, the grants have been higher this year as well. So they're still cash. And so they're in the bank, and that just improves that ratio for you as well. If we go down to the rates and annual charges, we've talked about that. And I believe that's a one-off there. So I wouldn't personally get too concerned. I think as council members as well and ratepayers, I don't think that's a concern. And I'd be interested to hear how you're tracking, but I would imagine that you're coming back to more of a normalised level now. So perhaps at the end, Matt, you might want to, or Zoe might want to just comment on that. We scroll through now to the next slide for cash position. So that, so again, we've talked about cash expense cover ratio. So that's just the ability to, sorry, let's talk about this now. This gives you so you've exceeded the benchmark again, and it's basically saying the OLG, gives you a benchmark of 3 months to pay for. If you didn't raise any more revenue, how long can you last? And council can last a considerable period of time. In other words, 2 years basically. So that's also a healthy sign. All right, if we go through to the next one. So cash position, thank you. So again, that you can see that in note C13 in your financial statements. So again, 2023, 2022, and there's some commentary there as well. So obviously the cash has gone up to 29.7 this year from 24.3. And the other point to note is that most of that is then restricted, which you would expect. And so we've got 21.5 mil of that 29.7 as external restrictions, and then internal is 8.1. So external is where you've got a specific purpose and allocated for the use of those funds. So there's a restriction on what you can use them for. The internal restriction, the external restriction has gone up by 0.5 mil, and it's primarily due to a decrease in your specific purpose unexpended grants by about 0.7 mil, and then town improvements 0.6, so that's about 1.3 has gone down. And then obviously the other way, you've got developer contributions for general water and sewer, about 0.7, sewer fund 0.6, and domestic waste management 0.8 have gone up. So they just counter each other off, and it's about a 0.5 mil increase there. In terms of internal allocations, the increase being about 4.8 mil, and the main reasons there is due to an increase in carryover works of 2.6 mil, still in progress. And then you've got land development of 1.4 mil, the financial assistance grant by about 0.3 mil, so that actually increased as well, but that gets internally restricted. And then employee entitlements have increased by 0.3 mil as well. Now I know that that's an important measure. That's you would expect that employee entitlements continue to go up, particularly for long service leave. You hope that annual leave is being taken roughly the same for what you accrue, but sometimes that also goes up as well. But particularly long service leave, so that's a good sign as well. All right, so I think if we go to the next page. So there we go. Now we've got a time for questions, and also I suppose I'll ask the first question. Does anyone think they know where this one might be?
No, you lost us.
I think I've heard that it could be Scone.
Scone, yes.
I've heard that, but I don't know Scone well enough.
Musselbrook straight ahead, Merriwater to the right, something like that.
Yeah. What that song?
And it's got a saddle around the main street, I remember.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so in closing, I'd like to extend my thanks to the Audit, Risk and Committee, to ARIC, being chaired by Neil Maltby, to Council Management as well, and to all staff involved. I know, obviously, I speak with Matt and Zoe a lot, but all staff get a big thank you here because they're all involved, basically. And particularly, I wanted to emphasise as well that not only did they have the audit going on, but they also had the change in software at the same time, which I actually think we did some work around that as well. It's a separate piece, and that went extremely well in my mind. And we've given a pretty good report card back on that as well, or we will in the management letter as well. So just wanted to say thank you to all staff for that. And I suppose a special mention for the finance section who provided us assistance through the whole process and answering questions and things like that. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. So Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions at all.
Right.
So, and if you want to talk about the collection of rates, I'm also happy for you to talk about that, or we can, you can do that later.
Do that. Andrew?
Well, that was the first question. I was just wondering if Zoe and Matt could comment, please, on the outstanding rates and whether that position has improved since the end of the financial year, and the outstanding rates has reduced below 16%, I think, or 16.22%.
Yes. Through the chair, as John has indicated, we definitely did have some transition issues during that time, and there was some delays. The team have definitely delved into what was causing that and some mapping related issues. So we do think we've got on top of that, and that ratio we're very confident will come back down to normal levels. That level that we see, we do monitor that in terms of how, looking at that as an avenue, how the capacity to pay from the community and those types of things. So we're very conscious of that ratio. And we have got on top of a lot of those mapping issues that have caused some of the delays in the rates and water and things like that.
So would it be possible at the next QBRS to just give us a quick scenario as to where we are with that?
Yeah.
Just so that council knows, so that we're on top of it?
Through the chair, absolutely, we can do that.
Other questions?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I raised that at the outstanding rates with Zoe and Leanne at one of the rates meeting. Matt, Andrew said it's 16%. What's the percentage? You said it's reduced. So what is the percentage? What we're running at now?
Well, through the chair, I can't give you the current percent off the top of my head, but I can tell you that we know what has caused that delay, and we have fixed all of the mapping problems, but we can take that on notice or provide the update of the next QBR as to the current percentages of where it stands now.
Well, that's what I thought was sensible.
Yeah.
So this new computer system doesn't give us that percentage? What I'm getting at, we should know.
Through the chair, it's at a point in time. I can give you a percentage yesterday, tomorrow.
Okay.
At a point in time of that report, I can give you a an up-to-date number on that, whether that's the next QBR or at a date, at the next council meeting, we can provide that report, not a problem.
Fair enough, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mayor. And we'll leave you to the rest of your meeting. And certainly, I'm at the end of the phone if you need me for anything at any point in time, and that's for you or any of the council or management.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, I'll leave you to it. And thanks very much for driving the slide deck for me. Right, I'll sign off now. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
We've got it. We've got it.
I couldn't understand him at all.
Okay. Questions from the public. The public gallery is open to members of the community, and the community is to be given a chance to ask questions at the commencement of the council meeting, and the mayor is to ask the full questions from the gallery prior to commencement of the ordinary meeting. Members of the public wishing to address council are permitted to do so, providing the following guidelines are adhered to. The person asking the question of the council meeting must clearly state their name and in what capacity they are acting. The person is asking the questions is acting as another person or organisation's agent. They must advise council if they have the prior consent or authority to do so. Questions from the public is not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It's an opportunity for the community to ask questions in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to an issue that may be causing interest or concern. Due to time constraints, a time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated. All questions and comments must be directed through the mayor, and in the instance of a question, if it cannot be answered, it will be taken on notice and a response given within a reasonable period. This is the only opportunity for a community member to address the council during an ordinary meeting. Now, Lincoln, you've got you want an opportunity?
Yeah. Mayor, council staff and members of the gallery have just given an update how we've done on the walk on the 2nd of October. Almost four grand race. And yeah, it was good, but most of the snakes kept away clear of me. But yeah, it was a good walk. And, yeah. And I'm going to leave the donation page open. Next few weeks I'm hoping to put my Christmas lights up. I'm going to do another fundraiser for the hospital as well. And that's it.
Thank you. Robin, Robin Wiseman?
Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, gallery, I always mess up when I
It's all right.
stand
You're
up.
fine.
Anyway, I have a very short question, and I have a copy for all the councillors. Has council reviewed any health and wellness research studies on the dangers of using 5G? I will be eagerly waiting for an answer. Robin Wiseman. They're for the departments. What's your head?
Sorry.
I think that's what I want for you.
That's all right.
Anyway, I just thought I'd save some staff from running them off.
Saving the single. For saving the single.
No, it's to be in your face so that when you're in Christmas, do some real research.
Thank you.
Does everyone have one? I think so.
Thank
There's
you,
a
Rob.
spare one anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. We'll get back to you fairly shortly.
Thank you.
All right. Confirmation of minutes. Item 8.1, recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 17th of October 2023 be confirmed. Moving a second, please. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trembath. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move. Yes, nothing further to add.
Happy to second, nothing to add.
Anyone else wish to? Motion, all in favour? That's unanimously. Okay. All right, what my intention is to bring forward two items. And there's item 13.9, which is a stage 1 and 2 of Bracken Glen Estate, and 13.10, stage 3 Bracken Glen Estate modifications for DAs.
Page 4.
Page 261 and 273. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor McKibben and Councillor McCarthy. Councillor McKibben?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to move
All
it.
happy? Motion, all in favour? All right, so page 261. Item 13.9. Recommendation is that council approve the application to modify conditions of consent for DA 10 2021.72.2 by including the following conditions in a revised consent that are consistent with option 3. Now, have we got a amendment pending?
There's an alternate.
Is there an alternate motion?
I'll put an alternative.
I'll go through here and we'll get that then. All right, council modify the consent to address the outstanding cadastral misalignment. The rear boundary of lots 1 to 6 be realigned to the existing fence lines along Abercrombie Road. Side boundaries between lots 1 to 6 be realigned to gain sufficient area to make lots 2 hectares. The boundaries of lot 1 to 6 be realigned to provide additional area to make up 2 hectares, provided this is a straight line along a newly formed and named McHatton Road front boundary. The front boundary fence of lots 1 to 6 may be removed if necessary. The applicant submit a plan showing where the encroachment has been redistributed to. The survey plan be submitted prior to the lodgement of the subdivision certificate application, verifying that lots 1 to 6 have 2 hectares in accordance with the original approval. Council accept the land currently encroaching along Abercrombie Road to be dedicated as road reserve, and that a division be called in accordance with section 375 of the Local Government Act 1993. Move in a second, please. Councillor McKibben. Second, please.
Second for discussion.
Councillor Trembath.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I note this, and I note it's arisen from a historical misalignment of the cadastral boundary in the encroachment to the road reserve of Abercrombie Road, and that's why this amendment is sought. So on that basis, I believe that the proposed amendment is suitable, but I understand that there may be an amendment to it proposed.
Councillor Trembath.
Yeah, I was happy to second it for discussion, but I don't believe that's the right option to be taken.
Councillor McCarthy, you got an amendment?
No, I had a recommendation which overshadowed the one provided by council staff. And I'd like to read that out and see where it fits in.
Okay.
That council accept the lot sizes of 1 to 6 in stage 3 at Bracken Glen Estate subdivision as presented in document 13.9, due to the council being the beneficiary of the land loss to benefit Oberon Council, Abercrombie Road Reserve. And this can be done with the LEP, which we have, which is a working document. The council has been there since 2013. And if we're going to go down the path of the thing, I'll push for the option 2, but mine was a recommendation, not to accept the one from council. So I don't know where we stand now.
So you're suggesting that we change that to, on that first recommendation, first item, so the revised consent are consistent with option 2.
Yeah.
All right. So you're moving that?
Yes, with the deletion of the last dot point in option 2. I don't think we need that in there. I think the plan was to put that in and stifle a developer.
That's a dot point under option 2.
Yeah, the last one. Because I think the drainage has been addressed when the original estate went in. I remember the general manager requiring a design for the whole estate, and I thought it was addressed there. The water flows, that was all. That's why it should be deleted.
So you're saying option 2 less the last dot point.
Yep.
Do a second for that? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, when I first read through the report, I was surprised to see the recommendation was for option 3. My immediate reaction when I read it was I thought option 2 made the most sense. My understanding with option 3 is that the northern boundary of those lots would be altered and pushed further out into McCaffin Road in order to maintain the 2 hectares. So that means McCaffin Road would be less than the normal road reserve width. And yeah, I would prefer to keep that width available for whatever council and other utility uses may be needed in the future. And I thought that the minor shortfall, if we have any, from reaching the 2 hectares was minor and could be accommodated. I just had one question for staff, if I know while we're at it. It doesn't directly relate to the boundaries, but I was just looking at the plan on page 270, and it shows a drainage reserve coming off McCaffin Road. And I'm just interested to know whose responsibility that drainage reserve will be. Will that be council's?
It'll defer to council, yes.
And have we looked at it as far as ease of maintenance?
Through the chair as part of the development application, that would have been looked at, yes.
Right.
There are others in the subdivision that we also have responsibility over.
Just from what I could see from the aerial photo, I got the impression that it might have been quite a difficult area to maintain, but I haven't been down to have a look for myself. But that was all I had. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I speak to it?
Yep.
To Clive's amended motion. I agree with the motion. I think it's the most common sense approach to take, definitely. We've got probably a first class subdivision up there that's fairly well established and in high demand. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't use common sense and practicality and go with option 2, and like the others are probably not acceptable, I don't think. That's all.
Okay. Councillor Trevor?
Yes, after quite a lot of back and forth between all these documents, option 2 was the conclusion that I came to as well as being the most sensible one, and I support that amendment.
Okay. So can you... All right. So, Councillor McCarthy, is that what your amendment is intended to look like?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to...
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we just didn't change the recommendation and amend, instead of having option 3, just have option 2.
Well, that's what we've done. And there is another slight change as well. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to agree with Councillor McKeithney's comments. I thought they were right on the spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree with it as well. All right, if there's no one else, I'll put the motion. Sorry, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? The amendment is passed and now becomes a motion. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's passed unanimously. Right, that's all right, now item 13.10. Again, Brackenridge Estate. Recommendation is that council support the application under clause 4.6 of the Oberon Local Environment Plan 2013, to vary minimum lot size development standard of 2 hectares applicable to the subject site. Council approved the application to modify the condition of consent for DA 10 2015 21.6 by including the following conditions in the revised consent that are consistent with option 1. Council modify the conditions of consent of DA 10 2015 21.6 to address the undersized allotment. Include a notation on the 88B instrument applicable to lot 20 of Bracken Glennis that advises future owners that the subject lot is below the minimum lot size for the location, and a revision be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Move and second, please. Councillor McCarthy, Councillor McKibben. Councillor McCarthy.
The report's pretty straightforward if we use option 1.
Absolutely, I've read through the report and it makes abundant sense. I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor Hayden.
Why do we have to have number 3 in here about modifying the conditions of consent to the DA, and why do we have to include a notation on lot 20? How much smaller than the other lots is that block specifically?
Would you like to explain the details of that, please, General Manager?
Well, through the chair, the condition basically highlights the modification and how it is being presented. I think the allotment size is 1.92 hectares, which is just under the 2 hectare minimum. And the notation on the plan is similar to as you've resolved in 13.9, that will highlight restrictions on that block when it comes to the lodgement of DAs and the like. So you can't undertake a compliant development application. It's simply referring that anyone who buys it, we don't hide anything in that consent.
Just wanted some feedback.
All right, anyone else wish to speak for or against this? Councillor McKean?
I'll speaking for it. Again, for similar reasons to the previous item. 1.92 as against 2 hectares is, nothing, 2/5 of you know what. So I'd be more happy to have that one than the 2 hectare one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the motion. I have a couple of questions. I'm assuming that the angled boundary between lots 19 and 20 was done for this reason, and that if that had been straight in line with the other lots for whatever direction that is, if that had continued straight down, I assume they both would have been 2 hectares. So I'm puzzled as to why that boundary between lots 19 and 20 was altered, could have left it straight and then had lot 19 having the undersize rather than lot 20 the undersize, and I'm puzzled as to why it was done that way. And another reason why I was puzzled was wondering if at some point in the future there was ever a move to extend Bracken Glen Lane up to the end and around the corner to the right, then that cul-de-sac could be removed and then the undersized lot 19 could have reverted to the full 2 hectares.
I'll put it down to developer's choice.
That's what it would be.
Anyone else?
Just so through the chair, should something happen in the future that would allow that to occur, that's perfectly within the rights of the applicant and the owners at the time. They want to make it both 2 hectares, but at this point in time, we're just dealing with the application.
Then that would involve having to remove the cul-de-sac and moving the angle of that boundary as well.
Both would require an application, so you could do it in one hit if you want.
More cost with redoing fences and all. 2 different items.
Okay, anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Well done. Thank you. Right.
Ian,
Thank you very
that
much.
drainage thing like park too. You go,
Is it?
right.
Okay. Right.
Thank you very much.
I'm going on the air or
All right, item 9.1, mayoral minute and report for November 2023. I'll move that and have a seconder, please. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, it was nice to see you had a meeting on the I'm happy to second, on the 22nd of October, assisting Gordon Stanley Smith with his visa application. I think I sent an email through to council. He has been awarded a visa, so gets to stay another 5 years, so that then he'll be getting his permanent residency, which will be really good for our community. 31st of October, if you, Mr Mayor, would like to speak about the Rural Doctors Network JO that you attended, and for other councillors to know a little bit more about it.
We signed, the Central West Joint Organisation signed a MOU with the Rural Doctors Network in August, I think it was, and that was to enable some collaboration between the two groups, and this was the first phase of that. The Rural Doctors Network has a program where we do health facility scans in various LGAs, and they back that up with us saying these are the services we have, and they can provide data out sort of coming from the Western Area Health Service to support decision making about those particular services. It's hoped to be rolled out the scan before the end of this year, and get a better view of what services are available and how well they're used or not used.
Yes, I found that a very good joint organisation meeting when we went and attended that. It was one of the better ones that I've attended. I just noticed on the 2nd of November, as well as the 8th of November, and the 9th of November seems to be a pretty busy time with Health Council. Was there anything of significance out of those meetings at all?
Yes, Ashley Hotham resigned from the Health Council, and I went to a Health Council meeting on the 9th of November. Now, the Health Council is not a council that is associated with the Oberon Council. It's a group that report to the Western Area Health Service, so it's a council of the health service. It's an organisation of the health service.
I was just wondering if there was any significant issues brought up there as to why there were 1, 2, 3, 4 of them in a row there, and also on to the 27th of October regarding Western New South Wales Local Health District meeting with Council. What has been the outcome of that at all?
I've had a conversation with Dr. Knott, and we are still attempting to find a date that suits both of us.
Okay, because that's once again noted down on the 6th of November. What is the Park and Play Roundtable? That brought a bit of curiosity.
It was an organisation trying to get me to go to a meeting about how to organise parking meters in the local government, so I didn't think that was appropriate at all.
Okay.
I've been introducing them in Main Street.
With the traffic lights.
Yeah, it didn't say that, it just sounded interesting, but thought it might have been in a park and play.
No, it was parking meters.
Right, okay, all right, nothing further, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor McKibben.
Sorry, on page 34, the 24th of October, the Central West Forest, we have a committee meeting. Was there anything that might have emanated from that meeting that would be of interest to council?
I'm just trying to think. 24th of October.
Sorry, a third of the way down page 34.
Oh, yeah.
Is there in general?
Sorry?
Is there in general?
Yes, that's right. It was an annual general meeting.
Oh, okay.
So I paid my $1 to be the delegate, and then we basically left after that. So it was with office bearers and no particular agenda beyond that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are obviously a number of references to the drought resilience plan, etc. The last one being the 7th of November 23. Have the results of those meetings been compiled and distributed so that people know what is the favoured options for the three councils moving ahead?
The second meeting, the drought resilience group, was they brought all the previous collection of ideas back and reviewed those and picked up a few more on the way through, I think. But at the moment they're trying to turn all these ideas into a plan which can be spread across the three local government areas.
So do we know when that'll actually be achieved and when we can?
I think it's this year, Matt.
Yeah, through the chair. So those, as the mayor indicated, those ideas are being streamlined into action items. So then that plan is also just about to go to CSIRO for input and advice. So that's the next round, and that will come back and inform how we resource and implement.
Some of the ideas put up were not necessarily of a scientific nature, so I'm not quite sure how CSIRO would input into that.
This was the way it was set up originally under the funding process. I agree that there's a lot of it's not particularly scientific in terms of the ideas to build drought resilience in communities, but I think there's an overall view that the state government wants to have coming from CSIRO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other thing that's obviously throughout is the correspondence from Transport New South Wales on the road, on the Denolin Caves Road, Hampton, and the last I note is 8th of November 2023, a letter, I think it's on page 37. Have we got any update yet on firm dates as to when this is commenced and work, when it will finish? I mean, the road was closed, I think, the 7th, 8th and 9th, if I recall properly.
Yes, it was.
Have we now got there was some confusion at one stage about whether it was going to be completed in 2024 or 2027, I think.
Depends which part of the Denolin Coast Road you're talking about.
Sorry?
The Hampton area is meant to start at the end of this month.
Yes.
With no specific date. The work you're talking about where the road was closed for about 5 hours a day on those 3 days,
finished,
that was some preliminary work where they had abseilers going over the side of the road and doing whatever they needed to do. The further information we have is the alignment is going to be substantially the same, and that the preferred detour route via the Old Window Road and the forestry roads is not going to be approved.
So when will the actual firm closure occur, which means that everyone will have to, as I understand it, go back through Bathurst or Saltport to the old way?
Well, the recommended detour is via Bathurst, but that also will include sidewalls for lighter vehicles, hopefully. That we did press them on the sensibility of having a light vehicle detour via the forestry track, the forestry road, and they said no.
So what duration is this likely to extend for?
It's likely to be till at least the end of May. The road will be under repair.
From November?
Yes. We don't know what period it will be closed for, because there is, I understand, at the eastern end of that damaged area, there's a very large culvert there, and that's probably going to require the road to be closed for a period. I don't know when, and neither do they yet, or for how long.
Okay, because that's obviously going to cause major disruption to our
It is going to be like
businesses plus our
2022.
tourist traffic. Yeah.
2021, sorry. Yeah.
So it could be, for the worst case, it could go from November to till May, which is basically 7 months.
No, in the worst case.
Worst case, yes.
But I don't think that's a likely case. But we're getting more information out of Transport for New South Wales than we've had for a little while. There's a few new people there who seem to be much more willing to talk.
Well, that's good, that's good. So on the 2nd of November 23, sort of 2/3, 3/4 of the way down page 36, there was a letter from Clay Preshaw on behalf of Minister Scully. What changes or what alterations to the planning process of outcomes of state significant developments, was that that was our letter to or their letter from?
I sent a letter to the planning minister, I guess it was towards the end of October, middle October, sorry. And this was a response written by, well, response on behalf of the minister. And the answer is they're not changing anything really.
Okay.
It's all a wonderful process, and so, and we followed that up with a fairly lengthy a series of emails and a lengthy Teams meeting with Clay Preshaw and his subordinate. Which left us with precisely the same position. They're not changing anything. They didn't change, they gave us an extra 4 days for the exhibition period.
Yes.
And that was about it. And that was grudging.
Thank you very much for your answers, Mr. Mayor.
Just one question, if I could, Mr. Mayor. Andrew's pretty much asked the question on the water strategies and the drought resilience, but I just wonder if we've been putting forward the proposal that we put forward in the drought for the Ducknoy pipeline and the WIA.
That's still on the book.
Still on their list of options.
And there is we went to another meeting with planning, DPIE, Department of Planning and Environment. And that was at Bathurst Council, and they're having a sub-regional water plan, which basically covers Lithgow, us, and Bathurst. Yep. And they had got what I thought was a pretty decent way down the path of coming up with an answer, but had yet to consult anyone who lived in any of those areas.
That was the meeting on the 2nd of November.
Yes, that would have been.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Because that has could have significant effect.
It could have, and
on three possibly more shores, or more council areas.
They were very cordially invited to have at least one of the mayors on that panel. At the moment, they've got nobody from either of the 3 LGAs.
Yeah.
Noting that the key part of this strategy is actually our dam.
Yeah, and that pipeline and that we are a minimal cost project and the key to keeping the level static in that dam. So I think it should be on the top of the list myself.
I agree. It's top of our list, it's not necessarily someone else's list,
no.
But that's it on our list, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, motion, all those in favour? Motion is passed. Item 10.1, land at Black Springs. There's a motion that the council purchase the land at Black Springs transfer station from the Crown for council use. Councillor McCarthy, it's yours.
You said that you wanted to pull it.
You want to withdraw it?
Withdrawn? Yep.
Thank you. That motion has been withdrawn. Item 10.2, signage for Burriga Park gazebo. Motion that council supply 3 other signs for Burriga Park gazebo, like the one provided to Mr. McClower, sorry, and fund from the Parks and Gardens Fund.
Mr. Clower.
Councillor Hayden and Councillor Jumbo. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, just the signs have been in and out of here with Damien O'Shaughnessy's, and one of the signs has been provided to Mr. Clower. Just to save confusion, I just put the motion forward that council cover the cost. I wanted to try and get some confirmation whether it's in fact 3 signs that are required or 4 in total, or is it, or are there 5 including the one Mr. Clower has got? And if I could ask Councillor McCarthy that question, because he delivered the sign to Mr. Clower.
There's 4 more signs required.
Okay.
The other 4 signs are legible at the moment. The one that was replaced and at a cost of $200 to Mr. Clower was illegible, and that's the reason why it was done. I asked for a source to do the whole lot and was told it wasn't there. And the only option was to use the village fund, which they allocated to the hall. So with that, I went forward and done the outstanding sign, and it's the signs are only at a cost of $200. And yeah, but the other signs are good enough, but they're not signs, they're photographs of the
the ones that are in the gazebo.
in the gazebo.
Yeah,
The rest aren't too bad, but anyway, it's up to council what they want to do. So I think there's grants out there that can match this.
Yeah.
I thought, I don't want to steal Ian's thunder, but I thought Ian said that there's grants coming up.
I'll
that
go
cost
to the second.
I haven't finished.
Have you?
No, because I wanted to ask the question to get the clarification. So with the answer, that was the number I wanted, it'd be either 3 or 4. I would need an amendment to a slight amendment to change the 3 other signs to 4 other signs, if that's okay.
Between you two, you happy?
Do you want to also change that it's not a sign and a photographic?
No, it is what it is, just from 3 to 4, just the numeral. And I had inquired regarding funding and through the Parks and Garden Fund. So if that's all I want to put forward, so that the gazebo can have all the matching signs intact. There's some perspex that's on the other signs out there where they have got some weather damage and cracking on the perspex, and they just asked if they could have the others matching. So that's why the motion's been put forward.
I'm happy to support the motion by Councillor Hayden. I think she just wants it to be returned to what it should be, and and it's good for the village to have some funds spent on that gazebo. They do get people going through there, and I think it's just important to have it all returned back to the standard that she would like.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. My only query with this is where the money comes from. So I assume when it says from the Parks and Gardens Fund, I guess that means the allocation for routine maintenance of Parks and Gardens, which, all of those maintenance allocations are, in my experience, always really tight, and so I'm just searching for any other place that the money might be able to come from. And I was wondering about later on in today's meeting, under the grants update, it mentions a small commitment allocation, $14,000 for specific projects in parks. I'm just wondering whether that allocation might be used for this purpose, or whether it's all already set for whatever the purposes are going to be.
Through the chair, that was an allocation by the state member. We just have to troll back and have a look at what the requirements are in that space.
So we haven't already decided what we're going to spend it on?
Not at this point, no.
Right. Well, I don't know if it needs an amendment or anything, but just saying, if we can use that money rather than using up the Parks and Gardens maintenance money, then I would think that's perhaps a better source of funds.
Through the chair, we have to wait for the requirements to come out. I would think that allocation would sit in that fund regardless. So in the end, it's probably coming out of the same pool if and when we had an idea about what we could and couldn't spend on that in that space, but I take
suppose
councillor's point. It's just hard when we don't have the
Criteria.
Can we somehow leave this open until we know that? Because I assume that allocation is more for projects and small capital things, whereas the Parks and Gardens is for maintenance, which is...
through the chair, as you probably rightly know, Parks and Gardens stuff isn't getting any cheaper, and $14,000 is not a great deal. So it might be a perfect project for something like that.
Yeah. So I'm just not sure of that process, if we want to somehow change the motion to leave it open, that we can use that grant if it is suitable.
I think we can just leave it to the staff to come up with Parks and Gardens for the first case, and if this $14,000 becomes fits, we can use that.
That would need a report back to change this.
Well, we can delegate. That's $14,000 is
not much.
Or you
can just use a mayoral member.
Yeah.
or you can use it, or you can use an amendment to say from grant funds available, otherwise the Parks and Gardens. Add 3 words.
Parks and Gardens or other grant funds.
If the proposer and the seconder are amenable to that amendment.
I'd be happy to put that slight amendment.
I just don't know why it just can't be like it is. It's $800.
So you, Mr Mayor, I agree. I think we should just spend the possible $800 and get the job out of the road, and it's something else the staff don't have to deal with. Start time
Plenty else we could spend $14,000 on out there, in Parks and Gardens.
Through the chair, just because he won't say it himself, a council didn't pay for that first sign.
No,
It was paid for by someone else.
Yep.
And if you're going to look at 4 signs and keep one particular person in the hole to do the first sign, because that person won't say anything, I'd propose that council consider also refunding that first sign.
I don't mind.
These ones could be $250.
So I think you need to make it generic to say
I think we just need to
point 2, the person who paid for the first sign be reimbursed for the cost of that sign.
And reimburse the cost of the sign that's already been done. So which would make it $1,000.
You happy?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
So that motion, the amendment would now read that council supply 4 other signs for Burriga Park Gazebo, like the one provided for Mr Clower, and funds the signs from Parks and Gardens Fund, and
reimburse the cost of the
original
sign.
We could do it by 2 points, that council, one supply, etc., and 2 reimburse.
Too easy.
Actually, you have to. You actually will have to declare an interest.
Just a point of clarification, I was the one who raised it, not that particular councillor.
But he's now got a pecuniary interest in voting on it.
Well,
not really.
no one knew any of this. I just thought that was all part of what was given to Damien.
That person didn't.
That'll leave it.
I think it might be safe.
Delete the last part and then leave it as it is.
All right, that's what the amendment, that's what the amendment looks like. You happy with that movement, second?
Yep.
I'll put the amendment.
I think didn't need 2 in there.
Well, I think the councillor relevant should leave the room, and I'm sure that the motion will pass, so I don't think it's a great problem if he leaves the room.
I wasn't going to tell her to leave.
But I think it's safer.
All right. So
it's appropriate.
All right. I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Then it becomes a motion. All those in favour? Motion passes.
Let's come back now.
Why want to come back? All right. Item 11.1, Oberon Arts Council. The recommendation is the council receive and note the Oberon Arts Council delegates report for the 26th September and the 24th of October 2023 meetings. Councillor Graham, Councillor Trimbar, Councillor Graham.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. The main activities at the moment for the Arts Council is the Arts and Health Program, which has got a session now and another one in January. And another major thing that has happened is the drumming workshop. Have actually been 2 now, and the group is so enthusiastic that they're going to perform at the end of year festival.
I've heard the drumming bit's really quite, generates a lot of interest.
It does, yes.
Maybe council needs a presentation.
You'll hear it.
Live up the music.
You'll hear it at the festival.
Any more, Councillor Graham?
No.
Councillor Trimbar?
It's pretty theatrical.
Thanks for the report. I always find it an interesting report to read. And yeah, it's good to see all these good things happening.
Any other councillors? So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. All right, Common Working Party meeting of the 10th of October 2023.
I think you missed the Black Springs Community Association meeting.
No, there's 2.
Don't use that one.
All right, 11.2, Black Springs Community Association, 9th of October 2023. Recommendations, the council receive and note the delegates' report to the Black Springs Community Association meeting held on the 9th of October. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I think the report speaks for itself. Just a few notes regarding what's been happening out there.
Councillor McKibben?
Yes, more than happy with the report, Mr Mayor. I'm wondering if Councillor Hayden, because some of us were here at the Legends, will indicate how the Heritage Tour went on the weekend.
I don't have any information regarding that, sorry.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I'm more than happy to second that report, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McCarthy.
Just the business arising, the first dot point. Is there enough money to do the village master plan? I thought we 5,000 allocated and the quote coming in at 6 or something. Well, we got enough money to cover it? The master plan?
The
Chair was sick, I think it was Councillor, I think it was 6,700. I think the plan was to roll it over into the new financial year next year as well.
To make enough money?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
No,
so,
that's incorrect.
yeah, that's what I thought.
To 2024. Councillor Hayden, what do you?
That was incorrect, rolling over into the next year, because the community association already have plans for their $5,000 village fund, which is in the other report, which has been discussed with Matt. And there has been had to be discussions with the Black Springs Community Association about the costs going forward, but the village funding won't be rolled over because they had that discussion at the last meeting.
Okay. So the funding for the master plan's in limbo.
So they're not using their allocation they got this year for it. So the estimate was
through the chair, that quote has separate stages of delivery of that master plan. So stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. So the initial stage 1, which I think we're looking at, is covered by the current funding in the village fund. But stage 3 would require an additional funding source to deliver that plan, which we see would roll into potentially 24, 25 plan, whether that's a village fund or a request coming through to use that. But to kickstart that project, there is sufficient funding in the stage 1 of the consultation and design phase of that master plan project.
Shouldn't the master plan come as one piece, not in 3 stages? Like, what I'm getting at is different people out there might require different things. So if you've got the one master plan, then it could address what they're concerned about. And that's why I can't understand. I thought there was $5,000 allocated to the master plan. We're short of money, so we're waiting on next year's allocation, which would bring the master plan up to $6,500. And I thought that was it, so.
I think you'll find under the agenda items in there, you'll see what the Black Springs Community Association wish to put the next term's village funding towards. Under the agenda items at the top point.
So just in relation to how this worked, the Black Springs Community Association contacted council and says, can we use that allocation of 5,000 to support a master plan at the rec ground, sorry?
Yep.
Council endorsed that, which is why we went through that process. The staging, I believe, would simply allow for that $5,000 to be distributed to start that process.
Okay.
Now, if council resolve not to do that next year, or they approach the association to chip in to support the 3 stages, that's something that I would suspect that we need to go back to. But equally, if the community association now don't want to go down that path, it would simply require a letter from them to come back saying we don't want to do it. And then that reallocation of that 5,000 can occur now.
If I may speak to that, Mr. General Manager, I think we've had some email correspondence with Michelle in regards to that, and also in regards to grant funding that may be able to be put towards the master plan, which is going to be in depth, quite like O'Connell's, and cost a lot more than the $5,000, and then requires community input and exhibition so that people can actually have submissions into what they want to go. And I think with what Councillor McCarthy is mentioning, it's confusing the issue that had become confused a couple of weeks ago as it is.
Through the chair, I have conversed through emails with the secretary, but at no stage have they said that they want to withdraw the
No, they
funds.
don't want to withdraw anything. I never said that. I said the current 5,000 that is allocated is there for that. Anything further may in fact come from grant funding.
From another source.
Because there are other village funding they wish to put towards infrastructure at the recreation ground, as the report reads.
That would simply be a
Through Mr. Mayor, the first dot point is that the Black Springs community write to council for clarification on how the master plan is progressing. Anyway.
Yeah, that was October's meeting, not November's meeting.
Okay.
And if you turn the page over to the agenda items, you will also see the dot point. I'll expand on my report for next month, and instead of doing bullets, I'll actually put the full writing in if that makes it easier.
Oh, it's just reading the report that's before us, Councillor.
Okay. Hopefully the next report will clarify a number of issues regarding how the master plan is going to be funded, because at the moment it's deficient in its allocation. All right, anyone else wish to speak to this report?
Sorry, what was that? I didn't hear that.
The seconder might want to speak.
No, I'm fine. I'm happy to second this report.
Anyone else? Put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. Ultra meeting on the 11th of October, item 11.3, and the recommendation is that council receive and note the delegates report for 11th of October 23 and 8th of November 23, Oberon Business and Tourist Association meetings. Councillor Hayden? Councillor Trimper? Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I put both October and November meetings in here so we can clear up a bit of space in December meeting heading towards the end of the year. There seems to be a lot of conversation lately regarding electronic vehicle charging, and I think both reports speak to themselves. If there's any further information needed, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. As always, it's a very comprehensive report and gives us a lot of insight on what's actually happening with our business community, so thank you.
Councillor Gibbon?
Thank you. Now, I'd like to ask, in respect to the 11th of October 23 meeting, page 47, the letter to council regarding the town signage at the town entrance, that letter's gone? Has there been a response, and what was the content of the letter?
The letter that Opta were going to write to council was regarding the signage into the entrances coming into Oberon, because a lot of the Google Maps are sending everyone via the bypass.
Yes.
So they're missing the town centre.
That issue, yes. Yeah.
Yes, missing the town centre. But after that meeting, I was informed that council hadn't responded to that specific letter at that point.
Councillors now.
Right. And I note you commented about the EV charging stations. Is it intended that, or has council been approached to provide land or other things for these charging stations? What's the current status of that? Because I noticed it was October and it's not doesn't seem to be mentioned in November. So I'm wondering where's that gone at this stage?
Right. Opta had put forward a motion that wasn't actually accepted, it was withdrawn because of it wasn't financially viable to provide X amount of dollars for X amount of charges if X amount of businesses took up the offer. And I had put forward a suggestion that perhaps if council had any land and if there was any way Opta might be able to work with council. I haven't had any further feedback from it. All I know is that those doing the working party for this, Chris and Jan Capel, they were going to do a little bit more extensive investigation into that and look into the funding sources that may be available for businesses to take up.
Do we know what sort of numbers of cars that are coming to Oberon require EV charging? I mean, I know there are some because I've seen Teslas.
Opta has said that there's been quite a few visitors that have gone to places like Genoa and some of the farm stays that needed to charge vehicles. Also, some of the travellers going through town had stated that they didn't find anywhere to charge their vehicles. There were only one or two locations, but I don't think there's that many. There may be 20 to 1,000, maybe.
I've seen something coming up from Canberra on the Abercrombie Road.
And until you get some charges, you'll never know because people, unless they've got a Tesla, won't come in.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on the EV charging thing, the RSL now has 4 EV charging, fast charging points installed in their rear car park.
Fast chargers, wow.
So I assume that they will be now speaking to the information centre and Opta and all that sort of thing and advertising that they're available.
Absolutely, that's a big plus for people.
So that's the DC lines.
So we need to put that on the website.
Double pole ones, yep.
Tourist website.
Great.
15 minutes.
Oh, don't quote me on the time.
Through the chair, just to give some more, that group has in fact contacted council and we've met with that group around how can we actively work together in that space. Council's issue has always been if council jumps into this space and private landowners jump into this space, are we competing or what is the...
Well, the RSL's already competing.
Well, that's right.
The revenue source.
But not only that, like there's also a, like if motels want to put that for an overnight charge, right? So we need to be playing together rather than competing against each other, and having a bit of a plan around that is probably something that's advantageous to all. So we're looking in that space now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Hayden, for a comprehensive report. I was an apology, as you know. Thank you. Lack of public transport in Oberon and finding a solution. What was the discussion there?
There was some discussion with Deborah King to try and work out how there can be an operator that could possibly operate small bus tour that can get tourists down to Genoa and as well as around some other sites in Oberon. Nothing concrete's come of it as yet, but there is a couple of people in Oberon that want to try and get into that business and looking at the ways that they may be able to do it via grants. There was some talk about taxis, but there's a bit of a stalemate at the moment in Oberon because it can't be awarded another taxi as yet. So they're just a few of the current issues, but they are trying to work out a way of running a bus, maybe talking to all the clubs and pubs to see if there can't be a way of getting a community bus up and running.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion will open further. Carried unanimously. Committee reports. Common Working Party meeting on the 10th of October 2023. And we will, most of these are fairly straightforward. The recommendations are the Council receive and note the minutes of the Common Working Party meeting held on the 10th of October. Council note the rededication of the Oberon Treasures display at Common held on Saturday 18th of November. Up to $1,000 from unallocated town improvement fund be allocated to fund the opening ceremony for the Oberon Treasures project. Council provide an allocation of $1,000 from unallocated town improvement funds to assist with the removal of the well, at the Oberon Common. An allocation of $500 be provided to the unallocated town improvement fund to assist in providing a historical board outlining the old well and its significance to the Oberon Common. Up to $1,000 be allocated to address the gardens around the memorial plaques for mayors. That's mayors who are deceased in office. And any remaining unallocated town improvement levy funds for the Common be allocated towards the extension of footpaths for the Oberon Common. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Hayden.
Happy to move the recommendations and accept those minutes as being correct as part of what we've done in our working party meeting, and this is to endorse those recommendations.
I'm similar, but number 7 should read that if there's any money over, that we start the path from the bottom down near the Aboriginal garden and work our way up, so we don't have trucks driving over it, busting it up. So that was in the motion from the, but anyway, the director of engineering, all our engineering staff should take that on board. They know about it now. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to contribute? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got no problem with the motion. I just had a question. It mentions in a couple of places various plaques around the Common, and it just reminded me, I've been meaning to ask at an IBS. A short way down from Curtis Street, there's a concrete slab and a seat and a rock. Now, I'm certain that the original plan was to put a plaque on that rock, but it's been sitting there for, I don't know, maybe 5 years or more, and I'm wondering whatever happened to the plaque idea. Do you know where I mean?
Within the Common?
In the Common, so
down past
from Curtis Street with the new car park on the left. Halfway down on the right, there's a slab, and there's a seat and a rock sitting there. And I can remember hearing that the rock was put there to put a plaque on it, and the plaque's never
Down
gone
past the machinery shed.
Yeah.
I thought the only two were the deceased.
I can't remember what the plaque was going to be.
Was that the land army? Yes, the land army.
Yeah, something like that.
Land army?
That's the only other one I can recall we had floating around.
Yeah.
We'll take that on notice.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm contemplating an amendment to 7 only. Became aware at the opening ceremony for the Oberon Treasures project that a lot of people didn't actually understand what the treasures were, and as we discussed, I think a plaque would be appropriate somewhere on the treasures wall to indicate what all the caricatures, to give a bit of a history of why it's there. Because if tourists come to Oberon, they see the treasures wall, they see the great characters, they see our, the characters from the past, but they actually won't understand it properly unless there's a description. So I'd be recommending in 7 that in addition towards the extension of footpaths in the Oberon Common, and to erection of a plaque on the end of the treasures wall explaining the treasures wall in greater detail, what it means to Oberon, so tourists understand what it is.
Forward out of the book.
Yeah.
Just an explanatory plaque.
Explanatory plaque. Now we have to work on the wording, but
I think explanatory signage is probably what we're talking about.
yeah.
Because I don't think putting other things on the wall, apart from those particular plaques, are appropriate. But in the signage, and I've discussed this with the general manager already, signage is to put a context around it so people understand what it's about.
Yeah, if it's one of those sloping signs,
yeah, just
that's fine. Yeah, but we do need it. Yeah.
Like the well sign that.
So, all I'd be suggesting is something like that be added to the end of 7.
Okay.
And for appropriate signage to explain the Oberon Treasures
project
display or something. Yeah.
Right.
If the proposer and seconder are happy with that change, then I don't have to put an amendment, but.
Yeah, I think
because it's only minor.
Yeah.
Clive, is it
Happy
Clive
with
and
that.
Helen? I can't remember who it was.
Ellen first, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, if we've got a bit of flexibility, from what Councillor Tucker called the chair and the rock, there was a plaque to go in there, but we couldn't come up with agreement with the naming of it. And I'd like to see if you're happy with this and we put it to bed in recognition of the ladies that served in the Land Army and the Corps. And that recognises the ladies that were in the Navy, the Army and the Land Army. So unless someone wants to modify that thing, that we get that plaque. The plaque usually is done through the same plaque that we get for the plots at the cemetery. So I think we know the cost is about $500, I think.
I just thought that was going up towards the Rose Garden area, not under a chair.
No, there's a plinth there.
Yeah, it's already
And
built there.
just, we could never come up with agreement with the wording. So it's to recognise the ladies in the Land Army and the ones that served in the Nursing Corps and all that. So if you're happy with that wording.
In both wars?
It should be women.
It doesn't say, women, okay, that's
in
fine.
in all wars or in both?
Just
Just
don't have to nominate.
don't stress it.
So that's what I'm getting at.
Women who serve
So is that
in
being
any
funded?
military force and the land army.
So that's being funded in 7 as well?
Yep.
Because of World War II, there was women flying aircraft.
What about just putting women that serve in the defence forces?
Well, it's nurses as well.
Oh,
I'm sure the mayor could come up with the appropriate words.
I don't know.
You're
I'm
starting to
happy.
understand the problem before.
So could we just have a read, what's 6, 7 now saying, sorry?
Yes.
So how about we send it back to the Common Working Party to come up with a plaque
For the seat.
for the seat.
Do you want to add what Clive just said too? So we'd say allocate towards the 1, the extension of footpaths, semicolon, 2, the fund the installation of appropriate signage explaining the Oberon Treasures, and 3 is the, what do you call it, the plaque for the...
Well,
Get through the chair. Can I just
we're on the
make
run here. That's why I want to send the Land Army or the recognition of them back to the Common Working Party to come up with what it is, and we can just do it separately.
Not on the run.
Yep, absolutely, I don't agree, I just wondered whether we...
So I think we've got enough in there now in the number 7.
What about the funding for it? So if it goes back to the Common Party, there's no funding for it because we've just allocated all the other funding.
We didn't spend $1,000 on the
Celebration.
on the opening of the treasures. That was whatever it costs for the barbecue, I think.
We've got $14,000 grant.
So let's, let's tidy this, let's get this one out of the way, and we can put it on the agenda for the next Common Working Party, for the Common Working Party to come up with an appropriate plaque description. And we'll do it that way. Is everyone happy with what the amendments are?
No, I'll speak against the last bit, because this is the trouble. We have it, comes back, then it comes back to council, no one can agree, and that's why it's never been completed. If you're happy with the recommendation that the women that served in the Land Army and the Corps get along and do the plaque and get it completed. It's been sitting there for what, 4 or 5 years now, uncompleted, because you can't come up with an agreement. It's a simple matter.
Can I make a suggestion? Oh, no, I can't, can I, because I'm moved it.
You make a suggestion.
Well, I was just
Make it
gonna
number 8.
make the suggestion that, any remaining unallocated town improvement funds. Do you want the footpaths?
Through the chair, can I make a suggestion potentially?
Not really, because we're the governing body.
No.
You haven't made a decision yet. But what I could suggest is make 7, 8 and don't touch it, which is the last bit.
Yes,
Move a standalone resolution and call it 7. Therefore, you have it included, and then the residual falls out of having the 7.
You could make 7 2 plaques.
You could have 7, 8.
One, the signage thing plus the plaque for the. Yeah. We just, and leave it there. And if you want to put the wording in there, you put the
Should we
wording.
have to put the plaque with wording to be decided on at the next working party? Would that be okay, and then the plaque's there?
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
So my suggestion would be that you outline that a sign be erected to outline
explain the
Treasures project.
Treasures project.
Yep, to call that 7, and you can call 8, provide an allocation from the TI Common Fund to support a plaque for the Land Army.
No,
and
women's
Corps,
service in
to acknowledge women's service in Defence Force, yep. And then the remaining goes as 9, and then you've...
In Defence Force and ancillary services, I would say.
Yeah, and Defence Force and auxiliaries.
And ancillary, that'll be broad enough. Yep. And then 9 is the residual.
9?
Which is 7 now.
Yes, 9 is, that'll be 9.
We've added 2.
Now that has to be supported by the mover and the seconder, of course.
I'm happy. Councillor Age.
Oh, I'll be happy when it's finished.
I think that's aptly appropriate way of doing it, Mr. Chairman.
I'll put that. So number 8 is to recognise women's service in the Defence Forces and auxiliary.
Ancillary.
Or ancillary.
And auxiliary service.
Oh, and auxiliary, all right, yep.
Is that what you meant?
Women's service in the Defence Forces and auxiliary services.
Just a bit of nonsense while we're waiting, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry?
Took 47 years to get the signs on the Carwood Road.
Well, we're under a tree.
While we're making changes, Councillor McCarthy, do you want to add in commencing from where you want your football to start?
No, I think David's taken it on board.
All right.
Just
Now, this
extension
is
of
enough
footpath.
minor amendments to be more than a minor amendment, so.
We're just waiting on the finished article.
Yep, happy with that.
What are you laughing at?
So mover and second to happy?
Yep.
All right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Done. Could have been worse.
Hazel Grove Public School Reserve has its been turned.
12.3 has been, sorry, 12.2 has been withdrawn and we're coming back to next month. There's some more points of clarification that need to be added. 12.3, the Black Springs Community Hall Committee meeting on the 2nd of November 2023. The recommendation is the council receive and note the minutes of the Black Springs Hall Committee held on the 2nd of November. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, it pretty much speaks for itself, really. It was a very brief meeting, as they are.
Yes, I'm more than happy to second it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Put the motion, all in favour? Passed. All right, reports to the...
Under 12.2 or just?
No, it's got to come back.
Couldn't hear for the
If you delay it, it might be eaten away by the termites.
What's now going to do?
Sorry, that's that one. Reports for decision, 13.1, order 2022-23 financial statements. The recommendation of the council place the audited 22-23 financial statements be placed on public exhibition for 28 days.
Yeah, we've doubled up there now.
Yeah. The council.
I think it does need to place the audit 2000 on public exhibition, take out the words be placed.
So the council placed the audited 2022-23 financial statements on public exhibition for 28 days. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you.
And Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy with that, and John Thompson's not on, but thank him very much for his presentation tonight. And obviously a couple of things came out of that, but it's very good. It's excellent to see that we have a clear audit report from our auditors, from Intentus, and the council here, very good. More than happy to move this this motion, this resolution.
Happy to second it.
Thank you. Anyone else? On the issue of clear audits, it was notable at the Local Government Association that the Minister for Local Government has shifted his ground quite significantly on the red flag.
Oh.
Now, I don't know whether this is a lasting shift, but it kind of did a bit of a silence the crowd. It was everyone just went.
Well, after the first presentation he gave us, when he said he'd been up all night looking at it and reading it and believed that the position was.
Yeah, so he has changed his tone and attitude quite markedly since August, wasn't it? Yeah,
Emergency services levy going as well?
Yeah.
Emergency services levy is not going, but the IPART determinations will include a full allowance in there for increases in the emergency service levy. So that's the first bit of it. I don't know whether there's going to be any other relief.
Well, the bit that's going must be the bit about the surcharge on insurance, private insurance.
Yes, that's right. The surcharge on insurance is going. Yeah.
Which was supposed to go 3 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. So there was an announcement today about, is it the new cap IPART's 4.5 or 5 or something? There was some announcement today on the.
That might have been the sort of, because the IPART commission was there.
Yes.
And, she was.
I just heard it roughly on ABC radio. There was listening to sheep. There was, I thought, 4.5 or 5.5% was going to be the rate peg for the next year, somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was what they said.
And that would be recognising
the ESL
component more than anything else. All right, anyone else to talk about the audits? No? All those in favour? That's passed unanimously.
Probably goes without saying, but I should have said to thank our staff for doing an excellent job on that as well.
Yes.
And maybe that could be noted, but sorry, it's after the resolution. But...
Well, excellent budgeting as well.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah. Compared to a lot of other councils, we are living in that sustainable space. All right.
I've done a few of those, haven't
13.2, Town Improvement Levy Review. Recommendation that council place a town improvement.
Can I put an alternative?
Yes.
I would like to put forward that we leave as the status quo and not proceed with the review. And I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, so I have written out quite a bit. It did concern me when I read it all, what we were doing. So I'd like to acknowledge that a lot of work has been done by both the council staff and councils in workshops, and it's not been a wasted effort. But what are we going to achieve with this? The amount collected is the same. There's no increase in the TI amount that will be with the redistribution. I do not believe it is business critical, and based on our recent increase of fees at the tip and resident vouchers and the community feedback that resulted, I think we need to carefully consider what we are proposing here, as I feel the perception will be this is an SRV by stealth. And as councillors, how do you propose you'll be communicating this, as we will be on the front line to answer any questions? With the current cost of living crisis, I do not believe this is the time to be putting more pressure on our community. How many of our ratepayers are defaulting on their rates now? I note that we have a debt collection fee in our current financial statements that is not insignificant, and I suspect that it will be increasing and compounded with this as the proposed changes will be based on land value and have far-reaching impacts to our local landowners and farmers. And as we just saw in that presentation, the debt collection potentially is an issue, and we don't actually have a point in time to understand where we're at. The TI fund has been used to great benefit for our community, and of note is the much maligned library and community hub. It only had 11% of TI funds allocated, but was very well received and immediately well used by the community. And there have been many projects in the town, such as the common, footpaths, ground and sporting facilities, curbs, gutter paths, gardens, roads, that the money has been well spent on, and the redistribution has risked of funds being directed to projects that are not of benefit to the greater community. 50% of whom live in town and get to appreciate the continued improvements that the fund was set up for, town improvement. I have not heard in our community that this is a big issue, and we're going to open this up to achieve what we already know the response will be. Those who live in the town will be quiet, and those out of town will want to know they'll be getting what they'll be getting for this increase. That could be received, as I've said, by an SRV by stealth. And compounding this is a proposed communication plan to go over the time of year that is considered in political terms as out with the trash, December to February. A known period of time that community are focused on Christmas and summer holidays and not taking notice of rates or social media posts and surveys. I'd be happy to amend that slightly to realign it with the review of our community strategic plan, which would be much better timing and much more considered and be able to be communicated much better to our community. So that was my alternate motion.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, so I believe that people are happy with the town improvement levy that, as it is, where it's been spent. I think if we go to a broader collection area, that people will be asking for a lot more if they're paying this, if the farmers start paying for the levy. I think the status quo should stay, and as pointed out in the report, we could save ourselves $20,000 there
as well. Yeah.
As well.
The 20,000 is only just part of the money to be spent. There'll be further stages and more money required to do this whole project.
Councillor Hayden.
I'd like to speak against the alternate motion for the simple reason that we've spent a great deal of considerable time discussing this and having our finance officer and our CFO go through a lot of the discussion in relation to this town improvement levy review. There's been a period of around 5 years that the community has been upset about being the only parties to pay this levy, whilst other parts of the community utilise the services that are there. This document and under 13.2 is placing a review paper on public exhibition, and it's endorsing a communication strategy for consultation of a possible review going forward. So I'm sorry, I don't support the amendment.
Councillor McKibben?
I just, as a matter of clarification, if I could ask the mover of this alternate resolution. There was a reference to, first, I think the first option was to keep the status quo, but then there was a suggestion that if we're going to go forward with this review, that it be done, I think in parallel, you were saying, with our strategic plan. So that's an alternative to the alternate resolution.
To soften it, to not kill it off completely, but align it with the community strategic plan, which I think would be much better timing and a greater communication plan to the communities could be given.
And that would be in 2025?
No, next.
Yeah, so through the chair, each year you have to put together an operational plan.
It's just about the next election.
However, under the Act, within 12 months of a new election, which will occur in September, council will be required to do a comprehensive review of its strategic plans. And I would suggest that, well, that would be the ideal time if you were going to do that.
Well, that was my
because it gives the community an opportunity to then have a look at what that is and what they want, and if you want to go down that path, then you can. So the 24-25 will probably be a minor review on your current plan, which is what you implemented as part of your role when you stepped into the role, and then a substantial review will need to occur once a new council is elected. So we would be trying to opt towards that rather than have two substantial reviews.
I'll just go to Councillor Tucker first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this has been going on for quite some considerable time. We've had a number of workshops, which my impression is that there has been broad support within the council to make some changes to the TI levy, and that this review process was a step towards making those changes. There was suggestion that we make the changes in our last budget process earlier this year, and it was decided to defer that until the 24-25 budget, so in the first half of next year, to give us time to go through this review process. I don't agree that that there is no adverse feeling among the community towards the TI review. I've had a number of people mention it to me, and for something as fairly esoteric as the TI levy, I think that's quite significant that number of people are even aware of it and concerned enough about it to even mention it to a councillor. I don't think it is right to say that it's going to be an imposition on those outside of town, because that in effect is saying, well, it's perfectly all right to leave that imposition on the town residents. I think time has definitely come that there needs to be a review, and this is a step towards that. And if this motion is defeated, I will move the recommendations as a foreshadowed motion. So, thank you, Mr.
Thank you. I'm going to speak partly for the ultimate motion and partly against it. My concern has always been that I don't think the town improvement levy is still fit for purpose. I think that it has outlived its social purpose. And the mix between people living out of town and coming in town, the movement is much easier than it was in 1935. And so I don't think it is necessarily fit for the purposes originally intended. So that's why I've been happy to support the process we've been through, and I think it's been quite a rigorous process. And I think the three options we have fit nicely in the spectrum of what is possible. I have been concerned about the process of giving people both information and then seeking their views and doing the consultation process. And if you include this in the major review of our CSP, because it is a significant change to the way we will be doing business. And I think the obvious one in my head anyway is the flat rate, $140 odd. It has to be communicated really well. It has to be communicated clearly, and people need to understand that there is no change in the overall number of dollars of rate we will collect. And I think doing it as part of the CSP process is actually a really good suggestion. Now, for those of you who went through the CSP process back in 2019, that was pretty rigorous. There were people there who didn't want to have anything happen ever again in Oberon, and there were people who wanted Oberon to move forward at Mach 3. And we came up with what I think was a pretty reasonable answer to all of those things. This is a significant change in the way we mentally think about looking after the community. If we're charging every residence and farm and business $140 a year, the people at Mount David might want to have a bit of that, and we need to have a method of doing that, because mostly TI is about the nice things, not making sure your road's graded and that sort of stuff. It's about having the walls and the curbing and guttering, and the people of Edith might want to have a new cricket pitch, concrete cricket pitch put down or something. I don't know, but I think it has merit to move this into the CSP process. Now, the other issue about that is that it allows people to talk about this as an election issue without, well, there is always pressure of election, but it allows it to become a topic for debate. And as long as the messages are clear and concise and we stick to them, I think most people will agree that it's not a bad way of doing business. And if it comes back that they think it's a terrible way of doing business, well, we just don't do it. Yeah. So that's something I'm a bit for and a bit against, but I think your suggestion, Councillor Trembath, is a good one.
I would actually like Katie, because I knew you had a view on it, so I'd like to hear from you actually, if I could.
I agree with the Mayor in that I think the town improvement levy is outdated, and I don't think it's we don't need it to do what it was originally set to do, because there's other ways of doing it now. And I'm a bit like Councillor Tucker in that the conversation, so far the people who are out of town think it's quite a good idea. That if you look at things like farmers, the percentage increase in their rates, because they're paying a lot of rates, is very, very small. And so you just have to think about, I think if your comment, Councillor Trembath, on the timing of it is probably very valid.
Very critical.
Yeah, but if it becomes a election topic, then we have to have the information out there before then. If we wait till we have to do the next operational plan, once we're re-elected or whatever, then it runs into the same time of year. as it would be now. So they're the sort of things we've got to think about.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's, you know, and I pushed very hard, you know, about making it a fixed fee rather than based on an ad valorem value. I think that's much more palatable to people.
Yep.
And that's I'm sort of much more inclined to go, you know, that way than if it was on ad valorem. I'd certainly be violently against it because I don't think
I don't think it's worth it.
that's correct. It's not the right way we should be doing this. So look, I do agree. I agree with Councillor Trimble. I do think on the timing, and I know that that's not what Mr. Councillor Tucker, because it delays people considering it, but it does seem appropriate that it should be considered as a major review of the CSP. The only problem is it sort of gives the next council the problem rather than us so much, but it will become an election issue, as you say.
As it should.
And the issues will be out there.
And the point I didn't mention is that the cost of living pressures are real. The issue of rate defaults, I think, explained partly by the cost of living pressures, but also by the fact that we couldn't put reminder notices out and things like that. But this, if you do it in early 25 as part of a CSP, that is hopefully going to get us back to a period when inflation rates are back down and a substantial part of the cost of living pressure will have eased.
And we're not approaching an Argentinian situation.
And we're not, well, you know, as a council, our finances are absolutely sustainable. That doesn't mean they're going to be sustainable forever. There will be a point when rates will have to change, I'm sure, sometime in the mid-future, for maybe 5 years. But I just think that what Councillor Trimble has suggested is actually not a bad idea. So, is that how the alternate motion is meant to?
Well, no, the alternate motion, we stick to the existing position.
That align with the review of our community strategic plan.
But I thought the first one was that we
First thing says not to
the
proceed,
extent
not to
position.
proceed, yeah.
The extent.
And then I softened it and said, and align with the review of our community strategic plan.
No, can't have both in.
No, you can't have both. It's got to be one or the other. So if the first amendment is
Right.
stick with the existing, then
I think it's your alternate offer to the alternate.
It's very confusing, I'm sorry.
Through the chair, you can't have a motion that says to.
No, a contradictory thing.
So you have a mover and a seconder to status quo.
And then there was a further amendment.
You already have one foreshadowed by Councillor Tucker. So you can move through these once they're
So
determined.
how about I put up an amendment? Is that the council defer consideration of potential options for the town improvement levy until 2025 consideration of the Oberon Community Strategic Plan.
Well,
is that an amendment? Because isn't that a direct opposite of saying that we're going to not review it?
Can I speak to that?
Well, hang on.
Against that?
That's all right, just let's settle down here a bit.
So through the chair, you have a current
alternate
recommendation that you not do it. You have a foreshadowed motion that will come into play should this one be defeated. If you would then like to put an amendment to that, is your option, but to basically go against the motion that you have as an amendment at this point in time is probably a bit early, because you already have a foreshadowed amendment this time.
Your foreshadowed amendment looks like that, or thereabouts.
The foreshadowed amendment is the recommendation.
So is
So
this
what's it?
councillor Trembus, or is this now Mr Mayor's?
No.
Because he can't amend her.
Right, so through the chair, we currently have a recommendation to council which is status quo.
That's my
Right?
alternate motion.
But that's not yours, that's not.
No, that's
So,
fine.
So
It's not.
dealing with this motion is how you do it.
Councillor,
Under
we
the
are
code of
sorting,
meeting
we are sorting
practice.
this out. So let's just get it.
You have a foreshadowed motion should that one lapse. Should the status quo lapse, not the one that's deferred. If that motion then gets a seconder, you can debate it, and an amendment can be provided at that point in time.
May I just say that councillor Trembus put forward an alternative amendment, an alternative motion. Councillor McCarthy was the seconder. The mayor is not the seconder or the mover of those, and he's now putting an amendment to something that was not.
And you're absolutely right. I was trying to get to a point where Councillor Trembus' offer that she put there was to articulate what that might look like. We have to vote on your alternate motion at this point. Now, does anyone else wish to speak to the alternate motion?
Mr Mayor, the town improvement money is to provide facilities in the town.
Yep.
And that's great. But facilities in the district, we have got a wind farm coming, which has got to provide a large amount of public money to the community. Be aware that that money can be used in the broader district. So that's why I'm sticking to that, to the status quo.
Okay. So,
What are we back to now?
we're at the alternate motion.
Right.
Do we have it on screen?
So that's as you, that's presented.
That's
Councillor
how
Trembus?
I articulated it in very
All right. Now, I think we've had plenty of people speak on that, so I'll put the alternate motion. All those in favour? Councillor Watt, Councillor Trembus, Councillor McCarthy. Against? The other councillors?
It's lost.
So the motion is lost. Foreshadowed motion?
Which is the original.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation as set out in the business plan for the same reasons that I explained a short time ago, that this has been going on for a long time, and in fact, right back to the last election, and now we're talking about putting it off until after the next election. I think the time has come to do something. Adopting this motion doesn't in itself mean anything's going to change with the TI levy. It just means we do the review and the communication and consultation, so at least we know what the views of the community are. I think I can predict that those outside of town will be against it and those inside of town will be for.
Katie's not.
But it is just about getting that review done when we come to the time of preparing the budget for the next financial year. It doesn't mean that we will have to adopt the outcome from this review, but it will put us in a position where we are able to if the community views are strong enough. So I think this is a step we have to go through to try to make some progress on this long-standing issue.
We just need a second of that. Councillor Hayden.
Right, sorry, I jumped the gun there.
That's all right.
I've said my bit.
You're on a roll.
Yes, I'm happy to second this as something that's been, as Councillor Tucker has explained, people in the community have been talking about it. They have discussed how it's unfair for some in town and some out not paying, and then there has been some lengthy discussions with the villagers outside of town who are all for this. With this document, this is not stating something is progressing or proceeding, it's just the information behind it and getting it out there. And after our corporate services and our finances put in so much work and effort into doing these presentations for us and taking time out of our day to delve into this, I second this and I support this.
Councillor Chipman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, there's been a hell of a lot of work going into this review, and quite frankly, I think that it is timely for the people of Oberon to consider the town improvement levy. Certainly, originally, I probably was more akin to the status quo or expanding the area of the town improvement levy. But I think we have come up with three good scenarios that should go forward. As I agree with Councillor Tucker and Councillor Hayden, but I think, as has been indicated, it's probably an inappropriate time to try and market this over Christmas period. You know, it's just, as has been said, it is just, people won't have this in their thoughts. I think it does need to be properly marketed and put out there, and I think with the review of the CSP, it gives us the opportunity to do that. And it also allows us to probably save considerably on our expenditure because it will be part of the CSP, the total CSP review, and it can be brought up as the whole thing. It may very well be that the community decides to keep the status quo or one of the options, but it puts it out there and gives people some time to consider it. I know we've gone out to villages and others saying that this review is going to occur. However, I think it is appropriate to delay it. But I also think it's appropriate that we give our community the opportunity to consider this TI fund. Even though I'm from the edges of the Shire, I have heard people in town complaining about it and the impost. And quite frankly, the current TI area really doesn't capture those who are within 5 to 10 kilometres, which are really utilising the facility probably more than anyone else. Yes, as you get out of 10 kilometres and you have more people, you know, it's harder to get into town all the time, you're obviously going to get less use. But I think it's going to be very hard for the option of increasing it to 5 to 10, because certain people will be in, certain people here. There'll be someone at 10.1 kilometres who doesn't get in. So it gets a very controversial area. It's been controversial, the existing area, and the estates that have been missed out of the TI, and they're not paying it, but that person there is paying it next door. So we have to juggle this, and it gives the community the opportunity to come back and consider all of these, because it's probably inequitable at the moment, and whichever way we try and sort of play with it with the areas, it's going to be sort of inequitable somewhere. So we have to, you know, but it gives the community at least an opportunity to come and have their say. So I think as part of the CSP is a good idea.
I'm speaking for the amendment. I believe that the town improvement levy as is, in its current format, has certainly gone past its use-by date. But I also very conscious, and I also support that we need to have some kind of levy for town improvements, and whether we call it town improvements or we call it community improvements or whatever. But so I've also spoken and had people approach me about whether they're for it, against it, what's going on with it, and that. There is a bit of interest out there, so I think at this time of year, the bit I'm struggling with is the timing. But I think at this time of the year, there might be more interest in what we think. A lot of people that live out of town actually have been pro TI levy for, why isn't it right across the board, you know, like that sort of thing. Well, you know, that's what we've got to get across. It might surprise us what the results are. The demographic of our LGA has changed dramatically. In a lot of the farmland now has been broken up into small subdivisions and forestry and national park, and the days of large graziers, some large graziers, don't exist, and there's more rural farmlets and hobby farms and things. So it might, and also the availability to come to town, you know, the roads are better, cars are better, people, you know, think nothing of jumping in the car and, you know, oh, I forgot the milk, I'll jump in and get it, whereas, you know, when I lived in Burrie, if you forgot the milk, you can get it until the mail comes the next week, you know.
There's a school there.
But, so I think it needs to be reviewed. I think that I appreciate Councillor Trembar's point. I think it's relevant, but I think we need to go to the people. I think there's enough interest out there in the community already that now's the time to do it. The timing with it is the bit I struggle with, but and I understand the pros and cons for both. I still can't get my head around the timing, but I do support Councillor Tucker's motion.
Okay. So timing is what it's all about.
Well, I think the bit I'm struggling with is if we put it out, it's too late. And if we go now, will we get enough interest? My gut feel, from what I've got from people around town, is there is interest. There's no doubt about that.
So, and then this is just for a bit of discussion. Do we say we put it on exhibition for 90 days from the end of February? So it's not seen as being taken out for trash. And then we do a consultation period leading up to the
budget.
Yeah.
Will that make a budget period, Matt?
No. So through the chair, that timeline has been in response to flow into that.
Then it becomes
24-25. So
whatever.
So
on the next council.
Yeah, March, April, May. We're going out in May anyway.
If you ever want to get something under the radar, they're out with the trash. It's like Friday night, politics, they do it, and December. It's just Christmas and holidays, and it's absolutely not the time to put it out. And if any of you like to go out in the community and explain to people why they missed it, so
That's one of the reasons we didn't go.
time is terrible.
That's one of the reasons we let the RFT go longer for the sewer treatment plant, as we all know.
I don't have an answer. Well, that's the bit that I struggle with.
Thank you. Why don't we just put in here and change portion 1 to 120 days? Because not everyone goes out and celebrates Christmas and goes away on holidays. Some people actually spend December studying, researching and reading. So not everyone is Christmassy people. So 120 days would give an extra month to that.
Councillor Hayden, I'm not saying it's Christmas.
No, I'm just saying.
It's a period of the year when people have other activities happening around them.
As I was saying, why don't we just change the 90 to 120?
Holidays.
Can we do 120?
Certainly my attention span between midway through December and...
Point of order, councillor, I was actually speaking.
Oh, sorry, I thought you'd finished.
No, I was speaking and asking the general manager a question, which you and councillor Trembath have both interrupted without putting your hand up, and I was waiting for an answer.
Just continue asking the general manager the question.
Right. Could we put it on for 120 days? Would that be an issue?
Through the chair, 120 days would be very tight, I would suspect. Wouldn't work?
Not through the chair, not to get into any adjustments into the next.
From now.
So through the chair, as part of the resolution as you have it right now, is we have to source a consultant, we have to go down that path. That's going to take some time before we go down the exhibition, but the timeline gives that indication. That's why the December, January, February 90-day period was earmarked. It would be very tight. It could be.
I think you've misunderstood what I was meaning. You have a 90-day time frame from December, January, February. You've had other input where they stated place it from February on. Would that interfere? I'm saying add an extra 30 days to the 90 to extend 30 days after. I'm not saying from February, I'm saying from December.
Through the chair, sorry, I've obviously confused you. That is not what I'm saying. What I said was if you go December, January, February, which is 90 days, all of March, we are in budget mode sort of February. So it will have a crossover at that point in time. Can it be done? It'll be messy if you wanted to draw that into the 24-25 operational plan. If you would like to do that extended period with the recommendation to do it as part of the complete CSP review after a new council's been elected, that's another issue.
No, I don't
I understand where you're coming from, but I wanted to make it very clear. But it would be tight. It would be tight.
I was trying to get into what the other expansion on the time frame was going to be. If that's not the case, I think 90 days is adequate.
Councillor McKibben and Councillor McKibben.
So, as I understand, I think I'm interpreting this correctly. If we don't get it in the next 90 days, it will go into the 24-25 budgetary process anyway. It can't go into the...
So through the chair, what you have in front of you, that is the start, the consultation plan based on 90 days, which give or take finish February, early March-ish. That would finalise the consultation process and essentially a report provided to council of what the community have thought. On the back of that, there may be adjustments required to boundaries, an array of things depending, and they will take further time to be implemented. This is based on the resolution that was given to us in March about trying to get these into the 24-25 deliberations and consider that thereon. What you're seeing here is 90 days of consultation. It would be very difficult, depending on some major adjustments, to even put them into the 24-25, but we have attempted to try to maintain that time.
Okay, so if we decide not to do it now, not to do it in the next 90 days, basically it's flowing, it then would have to flow into 24-25 year to go out for public consultation. And that would, when does the major CSP get considered? Is that?
So the Act indicates that within 12 months of the new council.
So that's September.
We've traditionally done it much earlier than that, right? Because there is that distinct interest.
So when's the election? September?
September.
So again, the CSP probably wouldn't get considered till the beginning of 2005 calendar year. Is that right?
Yeah.
I haven't thought too that far ahead, but within 3 months, I'd suspect that's probably the timeline, yeah.
So realistically, if we don't, just try, I don't want to, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but if we don't get it in this next 3 months, then realistically, it's going to go into that 24-25 financial year for consideration, and it would come into the CSP at the let's say the beginning of 2025 when we go out to the community. Have I got the timing right?
That would be, yeah.
Right. So as I understand it, we've really got two options. We go now, and we work on the bad that it's dreadful time of year for people. We're trying to go out and communicate something when people are in holiday mode, have their families, etc. As we've had the discussion. Or it gets held off to basically go out with the CSP in the beginning of 2005 with a new council in place. Is that a quick synopsis?
2025.
Sorry, 2025, not 2000, sorry. So that's the timing plan. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a question, maybe I'm not sure for Matt or Zoe. Given that we're still collecting the same amount of money from this levy, we're still collecting, say, $10, right? Is it that big of impact on the budgetary process? Like, we know that we're going to get this amount of money in next year's budget, no matter how we collect it. And the budget will come out as a draft process to start with. Then, after, if the decision's made on changes to the TI levy or not, isn't it only a matter of then rewriting that section of the budget?
Adjusting the rates.
Yeah. Adjusting the rates, but the rates don't come out straight after the budget. Is it that big of, does it have that big of an effect on it?
Sorry, through the chair, because the essence of the TI levy will be completely changed, instead of calculating as we currently do with working out the ad valorem and placing it onto the current structure, we then need to adequately place it within the ordinary rates if that's the selected sample. But if we chose to do the option 3, which is to expand the boundary, there's another piece of work that needs to be done. It really comes down to the unknown as to what the results from the community are going to say as to how big the piece of work is going to be. If they choose option 1, which is same from same, the work would be as it was last year. But then if we change the essence and moved it into ordinary rates, we have to make sure that we meet the legislation for the ordinary rates, and then we have to consider how this money is then going to be used if it's no longer specified within the TI district. So it will take additional time because it has to have additional considerations that it wouldn't have under the TI levy as it currently sits. So it would be a piece of work to pull together and say, okay, we're charging this now outside the boundary, however that may be, expanded boundary or to the entire LGA. What does that mean outside the LGA? What are the projects outside the LGA? So we need to consider a priority matrix to move it outside where it currently sits. So in essence, the calculations of the rates is not actually the only problem we need to consider. It's what we're using this money for to then factor it into the op plan. Going forward, that is the hard piece of work. Working with you guys to this change has meant what for the community, how we can then put it through the operational plan.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot clearer. Thank you very much. That's all.
So to summarise all that, we've got 2 options. Go early or wait till 2025.
Pretty much.
Yep. And that's what it comes down to. Councillor Tuck?
Thank you. I was just after Ron to reply if everyone else has finished. So the point I would make is that, look, I agree that the timing of doing this review at this time of year is not great. I would have been hoping that it would have been done earlier this year. But I acknowledge all the work that has gone into developing all the options, and there's been a lot of work in that. When we were discussing doing this review at one of those workshops earlier this year and pointing out that that was going to put it over the Christmas New Year period, that's exactly why the 90 days was chosen. Most things that go out on public exhibition would be a lot shorter than that. But 90 days was to accommodate the fact that a lot of people aren't going to have a lot of interest in it over Christmas and perhaps during January of school holidays. But the 90 days will take us through to the end of February. And it is, as I said, it is only a review. When we get to the end of that period and a report comes back, if the advice is clear, we can incorporate it into what we do for the 24-25 year, or we can can the whole idea, that's, as Councillor Trembath said, or we can partly implement it by staging it, not doing 100%, but 25 or 50%, Or we can do exactly what you're suggesting in your other suggested motion of deferring it and making the decision later after the election as part of the CSP. We would still have that option, but at least if we go ahead with the review now, we can, if we choose, implement it for 24-25.
Okay. So, the recommendations are that council place a town improvement levy review paper on public exhibition for 90 days. Endorse the communication strategy, support the consultation process and allocate $10,000 from town improvement fund and $10,000 from parks and gardens maintenance budget to support costs involved in the consultation process. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3. So, Councillor McKechnie, Hayden, Graham and Tucker 4.
And Callum.
And Callum 4.
Yes.
And the other 4 against. Okay. All right, on page 183, development application for 85 Dillon Street, Oberon. The recommendations of council support the proposed variation to section 6.4 carports and garages with the Oberon development within the Oberon development control plan 2001 of 60 metres squared. To the floor area of the proposed shed up to 112 metres. There's no punctuation in this paragraph. To permit the storage of motor vehicles, equipment and for their maintenance.
Sorry, what are we up to? 13.
Page 183.
Property maintenance
DA.
equipment. Can you put some punctuation in these sentences?
Take a deep breath.
And the division be called in accordance, I can't do that, with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Moving a second, please. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Tucker, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to support the recommendation in point 1 and 2, and I can.
Sorry.
And I can see the location of the proposal down there. That's listed that some of the non-compliances have been addressed, and I'm happy to support that. The recommendation as it stands. Thank you.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second the motion. I think it is a minor change, and I think the report explains it adequately, so happy to second it.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. All right, 13.4, DA, the Childcare Centre on 6 to 8 Tasman Street, Oberon. Recommendation is that council supports the request for variation from non-compliances with the following provisions of Council Development Control Plan 2001 and endorse the proposed childcare centre. Section C 55.3 building height, section C 5.5 building height plane, and section C 6.2 front boundary setback. Council apply conditions of consent for car parking in lieu of the car parking shortfall, and a division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Move and second, please. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think these types of developments are obviously necessary for our community and to keep it going. I note the comment on page 189 that the building has the appearance of a residential building that's consistent with the residential character of the locality, and the impact has been reduced by a number of setbacks and other provisions, so I'm more than happy to move this recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I concur with what Councillor McKibben has said, and I am happy to second the recommendation as it stands.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor McCarthy?
Yes, I'm happy that this has come to town, but my biggest concern is the layout on page 10. It shows the driveway to the east, and there's a large embankment there. Is there a statement how that's going to be addressed? I know it's out in the footpath, but, and then next to it is a sleeper wall of about 600, 800 mil high. There's nothing the council have out there, like a water main or something like that was kept for, or? But my concern is the impact that if they do theirs in front of theirs, how does it leave the lady next door? If you get what I mean? She's going to be left with this great wall. And, I just have a concern that should have been addressed in the impact statement. The access and levy.
Through the chair, Councillor McCarthy, the proposal was referred to the former Technical Services Director. There's no commentary came back in that regard. However, take that on notice as part of the conditions if that type of condition is required.
Okay, it's just when you're dropping kids off and embankments and things like that, that's my concern.
Anything else?
No, I'm happy it's coming to town, but my concern is like the impact on the street.
Yep. Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm certainly not speaking against. I'm happy with the motion. I just had a question. It talks in a couple of places about the car parking, charging a fee in lieu of car parking. I didn't know that we had that. That probably means that I haven't read my fees and charges thoroughly, I'm guessing. But I'm just interested to know, does that money go into a reserve, and what is the reserve used for?
Through the chair, it goes into a contributions fund.
Specifically for car parking?
It can be used for car parking, but not specifically for that.
So that's combined with other like roads, things.
Correct.
And stuff like that. Okay, thank you. That was all interesting.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Pass unanimously. Additionally, lead parents. Item 13.5. Asset management policy 1210. The recommendation is the council place the draft asset management policy on a submission of 28 days, seeking comments from the community. Should no submissions be received on a public exhibition, the draft policy be endorsed and placed on the council website. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Swap that one.
Councillor McKibben. Sorry.
No, you had your hand up first. I pointed to you.
You can have it.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, as a standalone policy, I think this is necessary. We've been doing what is under this policy for some time, I know, with our various asset management policies, whether it's for roads, whether it's for buildings, etc. So we have been doing this, but I think it's good to formalise it, as an asset management policy and how we do it. So I'm more than happy with this. I know, as far as I'm aware, this doesn't replace a previous one, but it now provides it as a standalone. I think it was part of something else previously, if I can recall. So yes, I'm more than happy to move this. It's already what we do, and it just formalises it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hayden.
And I'm happy to second this part of the policy processes.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support the motion. I just have a question on page 208 or page 3 of 4 of the actual policy, where it lists the responsibilities, and it talks first point council, then EMT, and then asset management steering group. I'm wondering who that group is.
Through the chair, the asset management steering group will probably be made up by the lead director that has a look at the particular plan. But we're looking at our options to potentially just remove that and bring it into an EMT, like a directorate type process, so it simplifies the
Because
matter.
the next dot point says council staff anyway, so I just couldn't work out. And I didn't say anywhere, do that.
It was trying to highlight it through your structure, but I think it complicates it, so it'll just be EMT.
So you're proposing an amendment?
No, so we can fix that up as part of the exhibition process if that's the case.
Thank you, that was all.
Okay, anyone else? All those in favour? Passed unanimously. 13.6, the annual report. Recommendations of council receive the annual report for the year ending 30th of June 2023 as information. Approve the upload of the annual report onto Oberon Council's website by 30th of November 2022 and notify the Office of Local Government that the annual report is on Oberon Council's website and provide a copy of the annual report to the Minister in accordance with section 426(5) of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, it's a very thorough report. I was reading through there. We've achieved quite a bit as a council, and technical services, corporate services, the general manager's report, the mayor's report, everything's just really brilliant in there. One thing I wanted to mention was under statutory information on page 232, councillor training and skill development. I was actually hoping that this would outline the individual councillors and the training that they had undertaken, especially that training under the Office of Local Government, hit the ground running, that we all had to do, but I notice it isn't. But I did want to know why RFS bushfire training is in there for councillors, because I don't think that's one of our regulatory requirements, is it?
Not for councillors.
No. So that was a bit of a query I had there. I did want to add one other thing. I would actually like to see a page in these annual reports that have a councillor breakdown into the future, but I might leave that to next year to bring that forward. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'll chase up that bushfire stuff for you.
Look, I'm more than happy. I read through it and I thought it was quite an impressive document actually, and the commentaries by each of the relevant, or the mayor and relevant council staff were all very good, so I'm more than pleased with it.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I apologise that I didn't get to this earlier. I was interested to go through the checklist, which is spread over 7 pages, and just to compare, would go back and look in each case and see what was in the annual report compared to the checklist. I just got tied up with other stuff, and so got no choice but to mention a few of them tonight. Just before I get onto the checklist, I'll just mention a typo on page 233, which is the IPART decision. It talks about summary of projected operating statement for Oberon Council 2015-16 to 2014-25. It should be 2024-25 in each of those 3 sections. So that's just a typo.
So where's it, sorry?
We're on page 233.
Oh, 233, right.
So the summary, the 3 summary sections have the wrong years in them. But just looking at the checklist, I'm certainly not expecting answers to these at the moment, but you might just want to make sure that we are complying with what we're required to do. So page 244, it is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th one down, must contain a statement of steps taken to ensure that goods and services were not the product of modern slavery. I couldn't find any mention of that. Page 246, the third one down, there's amounts incurred by the council in relation to legal proceedings. And it says the amounts incurred, including out-of-court settlements, and a summary of the state of the progress of each legal proceeding, and if finalised, the result. I couldn't find that. Page 248, the bottom section of 248 in relation to companion animals. I couldn't find a lot of that information in there, there's a whole lot of dot points and there's a summary, but it didn't appear to me to be answering all of those dot points. And 249 talks about development levies. The second last and the third last and the fourth last ones, I couldn't find that information. So, as I said, I'm not expecting you to have answers now, but you might just want to check if anything's been left out before it goes on display.
It's getting uploaded. It's gone.
Already, is it?
Yes.
No, it's through the chair, it gets uploaded by the 30th of November.
Yeah.
More than happy to have
It's
all.
9 days away.
I'm happy to have all of those
I
things.
can still drop you an email to confirm those if you didn't get them down.
I've got them down
You've
already.
got them. Okay. That was all.
Through the chair, the answer may be there is none, but we'll just confirm that for you.
Do you have to put nil or not?
Let me have a look.
Yeah, but something like development levies, surely that wouldn't be zero. Anyway, I'll leave it to you.
The bushfire training relate to me as a delegate of RFS. That's where it come from.
Okay.
If you don't want me to be a delegate, I don't mind.
No,
That's where it come from, and that's why it's in Karen's register.
Okay. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous.
Child safety policy.
Child safety policy, item 13.7, the recommendation is that council place the revised child safety policy 2113 on public exhibition for 28 days and submissions be invited to council during that period. No submissions are received within the exhibition period. The policy be adopted as presented and delegate the general manager to amend any minor changes proposed.
Could I have an alternate motion for one, please? I think the previous policy or the existing policy is a child protection policy. So we probably need in one to say replace the current child protection policy 2113 with the new child safety policy 2113 to be absolutely accurate.
So you just want one amendment?
Yes. I think that's correct, isn't it, General Manager? Wasn't the current one the child protection?
It was the child protection.
Yeah, so you can't really say it's replacing.
So with that in mind, councillor, could we add a 1 at the top to the council note the change to from child protection to child safety?
Yes.
And then the 3 other ones would flow as a 2, 3 and 4?
All right, that's fine.
Good way of doing it. Okay, that's included now. Just mover and seconder.
I'm happy to move it on that basis.
Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, it's obviously very timely that we review our existing child protection policy and replace it with the child safety policy. Since the last review, I think, was in 2018. And obviously standards have changed and wording has changed. So I'm more than happy to move this new policy, the child safety policy, in 4 parts now as per the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to second the minor amendment and second the recommendations due to the change in legislation and the requirements under the Act. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Tuck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support the motion. Again, just a question. In the report, in the first paragraph under the heading background and within the policy itself, it mentions an appendix to the policy, which is called the Child Safety Procedure. Now, that procedure hasn't been included in the business papers, but I'm assuming that the procedure will be included in whatever goes out on public exhibition, and then once it's adopted, I assume that will be on the website. Yep. Thank you. That's the only question.
All right, off the motion, all in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. We'll just soldier on for another 6 minutes and we'll break for 10 minutes or so. All right, funding for the footpath to the accessible playground at the Common. Item 13.8, the recommendation is that the council approves $1,700 from unallocated funds in the Oberon Common Town Improvement Fund for a footpath that will link the accessible playground with the existing footpath network. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Had this money actually been allocated prior to the Town Improvement Fund allocation earlier in the business paper?
Through the chair, just by way of good timing and good management, the fact that your recommendation 9 that you've endorsed says that and any unallocated funds go towards footpaths in the commons, this would simply just fall into that.
Okay, and that's cast. I'm happy to move that.
Straightforward. Thank you.
You can have your own question time.
Yes, I should do. I was just going to make a smart comment on this one. I'm just wondering how many times we've allocated the unallocated money.
Yeah,
Twice comment, I think.
must be exhausted.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. The next two have already been dealt with.
The magic pudding,
Yeah, that's right.
Water filling stations. Hopefully we can get through. We'll break after this one. Item 13.11. The recommendation is that council approve the replacement of the existing water filling stations at Black Springs, North Street and O'Connell with a new Aberfield WD 3000 water filling station and associated equipment estimated at $149,500 ex-GST, and provide funding for the installation of the two new water filling stations in Black Springs, North Street and O'Connell from water fund reserves. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've read through the papers and the information from Company Aberfield. I think in the circumstances it will create greater synergies across all our water filling stations, which will create greater benefit to council in being able to use one type of system across them all. I can't recall what the original budget allocation was for just one of these stations. I'm assuming it was around 50,000.
49,500.
Yeah, 49,500, sorry, thanks. So we're paying an extra 100,000, but overall it's probably worth it to have the synergies and for people to be able to use the same card, same systems wherever they go, and an ease of administration for council. So I think it's worth it. So I'm more than happy to move this recommendation in two parts.
Councillor.
Yes, I'm happy to support the recommendation in both parts. Having had extensive discussions in this at the previous informal briefing session, and all the information put forward that other councils have no issues with these, I'm happy to support that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the advantages of having all three under the same system. My concern is the source of funding, so the 100,000 coming out of water fund reserves for the two out of towns. I know that question was asked last week at the IBS, and it was said that, yeah, well, any money that they make will go back into the water fund, but surely that's still going to take a long, long time to recoup $100,000 that comes out of that fund. It just doesn't seem right to me where it's town people paying into that fund and so much of it is being used out of town. Is there, can I ask the General Manager, are there any suggestions of other potential sources?
Not without taking them on notice for $100,000, councillor. The other option is to defer it to potential grant funding. The problem you have there is that we then just defer this and you've already got that and you can consider as part of 24-25 deliberation. So I can't see a crystal ball where a grant might turn up tomorrow.
If there was an obvious alternative source, it would have been mentioned.
But that's...
But that would be my view, that I think it would be better to put it off and consider as part of the next budget or wait for grant funding, acknowledging that prices will go up in that time, but prices always go up over a period of time, and I think that's the better and fairer way. So I'm opposed to number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having some concerns with spending that amount of money. Two stations are still operational. I just wonder whether it's probably a better option financially to replace the one station and then to defer the others into the next financial year. Maybe some grant funding might come available. Who knows, but I think I'd probably foreshadow an amendment to just replace the one that needs upgrading at this stage. I know other councils are in a similar position and they have some working and some not. Some of our neighbouring councils, and they're not upgrading them all either. It's the same reason, the cost. So I think, hopefully we won't have a large load on the other two, but if we do, we do. And I just think I'll foreshadow that we.
So are you proposing an amendment?
I'm proposing an amendment.
So can I just confirm before you already have a resolution to buy one and consider others later on?
Yep.
This was purely an opportunity that arose because of that. So you don't need to have you just vote this one down and then we'll progress with just one.
So the existing motion is still on.
Correct.
We just replaced the faulty one, or the one we can't take parts for.
That's correct.
And we can do the other ones, we can plan them in to be replaced or upgraded in the future.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's more the way to go.
Yep.
May I add one more small point? Sorry to have a second go. The other point I was going to make was that 100,000 out of the water fund, we might find that we need that depending on what the results are from the investigations going on.
Yeah, it's also not going to be good. Not going to be good for us.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just the other two water things come out of a grant from the drought. We're heading back into a drought, and there might be sources of revenue to facilitate those two upgrades. But I think the status quo should be that we just replace the one in North Street at the moment and look for a grant opportunity from the drought, because that's where the money come from before.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? One, two, three, four, five. So it's Councillor McKibben, Councillor Trenbar, Councillor Hayden, Councillor Watt. You have your hand up, Katie? No, and myself. We're four.
What's up?
All right, let's call it a break for a bit. So back in at quarter two. All right, councillors, reports for information, item 1401, monthly activity report for the General Manager, recommendations of 14.1 is received as information. Councillor Hayden and Councillor somebody? Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation and thorough report considering all the other reports that had to be done for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy with this report. I'll ask a couple of questions in relation to the status of council resolution.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy?
Yeah, just to the general manager, and it could be in David's thing, but David might know. Are we still on path to get our workshop registered as a motor vehicle inspection station?
Through the chair, that training's been deferred a couple of times.
Okay.
The fact that we've lost one of our mechanics hasn't helped us to fill it, but we're fully supportive of trying to get that in place. So we're going to try and get our guys there as soon as we can.
Just a question, do they need to be licensed mechanics to hold that position? Shouldn't we be checking that out first?
Yeah, it'll be one of those things that I'm of the belief that if we indicated our involvement in it, that our mechanics are trained appropriately to do that.
Yeah. Okay, that's my main. I see it as a big time saving thing, but I honestly think that in the past we haven't needed to be licensed, and maybe we've got to come up to speed to have at least one person licensed on site. Anyway, thank you.
Councillor Tremble?
I just noted in your report, it says following incidents of verbal abuse towards staff at the Oberon tip, a risk assessment was documented with a recommendation for installation of CCTV cameras. I just want to ask how that is going to help people being abused at gate.
Through the chair, I think it's trying to minimise that potential for it to occur. I think that can happen. It's not only the community, so we have to continue our training in that regard as well. So the ability for people to be seen on CCTV is the prevention rather than the cure.
You can always hand it to the police.
The level of abuse is really not about the staff, it's about what we put in place and then had to reverse. So I still firmly believe that the way the staff have had to handle this situation, that we sit in a room and never have to experience it, is not acceptable. It's just not right.
So through the chair, it's also for our protection as well. So there is process around why we do these things. As part of the installation of the weighbridge as well, CCTV comes as a part of that as well. So it's just trying to
do you know the level of abuse that's been experienced at that gate has been exponential?
Yes.
The increase is all because of a decision that we made or did not realise we've made. And it's just bad communication all round, still at the gate. I'll be going back for my next 3 vouchers worth.
Through the chair, that was unfortunate.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. Sorry, you.
No.
Put the motion. Item number 3. 14.2, monthly activity reports for planning and development. Recommendations of 14.2 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Sorry. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation to receive the report. It's good to see all the work that has progressed, and it's nice to see that the awning is now the centre of being repaired and cleaned up and painted. A couple of things I did notice, and this is by no means being critical of anyone whatsoever, but I have noticed an increase in the amount of dogs and the amount of calls to the ranger in regards of picking up stray dogs, and witnessed one only yesterday. But I'm not seeing these come through into the reports. And I was just wondering why, and if maybe the planning director could take that on notice and perhaps send me an email with a brief explanation, because I would think under the Companion Animals Act and being a council, one of our requirements is if there is straying dogs and dogs roaming properties several occasions, that these dogs should be picked up, put in the pound, and the respective owner should be actually copping a fine, especially for repeat offenders. That's just one of my views on that. Thank you.
Look at Facebook in Oberon, there's about 15 dogs a day get out, and they all seem to get back where they belong. So that's probably why
No, this was different, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else wish to? Councillor.
Second.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'm more than happy to second it. Look, I don't know if it helps at all in relation to stray dogs, but I know I have dogs that are chipped, but I also put one of my tags on it, NH tags, and I have kildrummy on one side. So if it strays around the neighbours, which my dogs don't, but if they were to, people know it's a kildrummy dog because I've got one of the animal tags on the collar. It's very simple for farmers to do that, and it's if you've got your NH number and your property name on both sides, then people immediately know it's yours. What's wrong?
Oh, sorry,
Yes, I know.
my statement wasn't relating to other people picking up dogs and returning dogs to properties. Mine was in regards to our ranger picking up dogs and returning them to owners without returning them to the pound.
Okay. Anyone else on the planning development report? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is passed. Monthly activity report for technical services. Recommendation is that 14.3 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to receive this report. I know that we're without a technical services director, and I'd like to thank the general manager for providing this.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, I'm happy with the report, especially the bit of sealing we've done around Black Spring Cemetery, but part that Chris used to handle in his report was the update on the O'Connell Rec Ground. Are we on track, whether it's answered by David or the general manager, are we on track to complete the amenities block for the grant down there at O'Connell by the end of June, when the grant runs out?
Yeah, so it's under the guise of Damien at the moment.
Oh, okay.
So the rec facility will be managed by Damien.
So I'll ask the question again, are we on track to have it done by June, when the grant runs out?
Through the chair, the grant actually runs out the end of July, not June, but we will be on track, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Motion, all in favour? Passed. 14.3 is passed unanimously. 14.4, corporate services, and the recommendations of 14.4 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, happy to receive the recommendation for this report. It's a good report. I noticed the Pink Up overview. I did want to bring up and mention that Pink Up this year was a little late in going out to the community. Some of that, as you probably know yourself, however, everyone's been very busy with migration of the internet, the IT resources and everything. In relation to the Visitor Information Centre, I actually went down and had a sticky beak at that when they all first went upstairs, and I've got to say it does look much better. It's a very short little seats, but it does look a lot better, and it does look like a completely different building inside. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm more than happy to second this report. I note the comment about the attendance at cybersecurity by the information technology GIS coordinator, and that's obviously crucial to our organisation with the with cybersecurity problems being experienced across the country and even some ourselves. And I further note that the Small Business Month on page 3112 had an emphasis on cybersecurity as well. So that's obviously gratifying to see the emphasis that's being placed on with the problems that are being experienced, not only by us, but by most businesses and organisations.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question on CCTVs in the main street. We have a resolution that was passed quite a while back that they be checked every Friday and a report be included in the Corporate Services Report to Council each month. I haven't noticed it in the last few months' papers. I didn't go back past June.
Through the chair,
there's a failure in the system somewhere.
Yeah, through the chair, we provided two detailed CCTV reports on the status of the network. The last one was maybe 6 or 7 months back, I can't recall. That highlighted that there is some issues there and that there would be some investments required to bring them all up to remedy some of the breakdown in networks that we have. The CCTV are monitored. They're all integrated into one system, but we do monitor, and with the new ones that are coming online at the VIC, the library and the TIP will all be brought onto that network. But correct, I haven't been providing a monthly update on those, so I'm happy to.
I'd just like to see it back in the report, which it hasn't been. It was a motion passed by council to have it there, to have them checked weekly and a report on their status.
Any failures or such.
You know, what ones were working, weren't working, each month in the business packet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Covey?
Yeah, in Matt's report, item 4, has there been a decision made on the management of the independent living units? Are we getting a report back? Or?
No, through the chair, we are a number of things we've looked at in the alternative options for the management of the units. We've done a round of discussions with real estate partners to assess would that be a suitable model for this arrangement we have of the units. Based on that, in those discussions, it's most likely not going to deliver some of the problem solving that we do see in the units. We have also reached out to some other councils that have similar facilities such as this, such as Cumberland Council, to understand how they provide this type of social welfare component. And we've also started to speak with healthcare providers, even such as Columbia, to see whether there's an outreach type model that can be looked upon across our facilities, because we do have a critical mass of tenants there where there are some potential options for this to be delivered. So we are looking to explore that a bit further with something that would come back to council at some point in time. But based on the initial real estate, it doesn't seem that would be appropriate. But that's where those investigations are at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about management paying fees, and I understand is that now that Centrelink required that they've got to have an electronic account to receive their money, most of them, and that we can't link it into paying the council at appropriate time. That was all. And I don't think it's a big drama that we can't handle it in-house ourselves and not put an extra rate increase on to the tenants, and this being might be a part of the operation of these 3 trainees that we're bringing on board. That's all. We'll give them a great bit of experience managing one of those sort of items that when they're in that position to do it.
Yeah.
And when they go out into the real world later on, they've got that experience, that's all.
Yeah, through the chair, the tenant payments and liaison is not, we do that, we think quite well with the tenants, where they're bringing in a lot of Centrelink documents quite regularly that we're signing and helping them verify. It's just how do we provide that oversight, more of a social welfare component of what we're doing is not so clear through those real estate models. So at this point in time, we're managing as per we have been, with some updated procedures and protocol around that. And when we see a better model that may be able to be explored through maybe some of these outreach services, that could be even a pilot project for the area, where we can explore that and bring that back to council. So those discussions continue with Columbia and players like that. Yeah.
Okay, and what about the replacement roof? When does it take place?
Through the chair, the chap is just finishing his induction, and we are hopeful that he will commence within the next 1 to 2 weeks. There has been some delay in getting that contractor through the process and lining up with other work, but we are hopeful within the next 1 to 2 weeks that he'll commence.
And have we got a plan in place if we need the divisions that are required between units?
We've highlighted that with the contractor and getting an idea of what that might look like, and if there is some adjustments, then we'll come back to council and or proceed depending on what the contractor's thoughts are.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Passed. 14.5, investments, recommendations at 14.5 is received for this motion. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this recommendation, and I note that our investment income continues to grow, which is good for obviously our finances. Can't say much more than that. I'm more than happy to propose it.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Happy to second. Disappointed to see that the RBA is increasing its interest rates, and inflation is up to 5.6%. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Motion is passed. Grant updates. Recommendations of item 14.6 to receive this information. Councillor Tucker, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to move it. I have some questions. Under section 1B, where the heading being the repair program, it says that we've discussed previously the extra 2.49 million that we're getting under the RERRF, and that was waiting on information on exactly what it can and can't be used for, and I assume at some point in the near future there'll be a report telling us what it can and can't be used for, and making some suggestions of how we allocate it.
Yeah, 5th of December, Council.
5th of December, thank you. In that same section, it talks about the repair program having been paused. So we're not getting our 450,000 in the current financial year to go towards the Abercrombie Road works. So we either need to reduce the scope of that project, or find some extra money from somewhere else, or cancel it and reallocate the money. So will that be the 5th of December?
That is what we're proposing, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Or you forgot use some of the 2.49 million.
Or if that is permissible, of course we would need to be careful about when that has to be spent by, and if we need to spread it out over the several financial years until the repair program comes back on.
Without trying to rain on that reports parade, the 5th of December.
Yeah, thank you. Well, probably on the 5th of December, we'll also get some information about the block grant, because if we decide to can the repair project, we're going to have some block grant money and some roads recovery money to reallocate. 5th of December?
5th of December.
Lovely. This one won't be the 5th of December. Item 4B, Crown Reserves Improvement Fund. Have we submitted an application, or do we have any particular projects in mind?
Through the chair, we have that closed on the 17th of November. We put some applications forward for some improvements at Black Springs Hall. Yeah.
Thank you, that was all. I'll look forward to the 5th of December.
Not to hear that one, though. Not to hear the last one.
Councillor Gibbon?
Not for that one.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, yeah, I was going to ask some similar questions to Councillor Tucker, so that will be dealt with. Obviously, the Recreational Fishing Trust grant, do we know what amounts we can apply for under that one, which is on the bottom of page 3118?
Through the chair, I don't have the
dollar value
off the top of my head, but some of the projects that we have looked at are fish cleaning facilities and infrastructure like that. Some discussions with different environmental groups and anglers have indicated that fish cleaning facilities in freshwater may not be as favourable as salt water, so they have forced a slight rethink on potential projects to look at that under that grant. Yeah, I apologise. I can't recall. I think it may be 100K, but I can provide that to you.
For Oberon?
I can't recall the actual ceiling on the grant application. I'm sure we can look it up, but that was a project we were looking at, some fish cleaning facilities.
I don't know if it would fall within it, but one thing that a lot of anglers do complain about is when they go down the rivers is the number of willows they get their lines caught in. I know LLS is doing a program currently on the Campbell's River for removing willows. So that may need to also be looked at by council. I don't know if anyone, I have been approached by LLS and I've said, well, we've actually removed most of them on the Campbells, but there must be people further upstream that may have willows, Waters Retreat, etc. Yeah, but probably an opportunity to take advantage of some of these things.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to second this report. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to the Recreational Fishing Trust grant. That grant popped along because last year's Redfin Roundup, New South Wales Fisheries from out at Forbes Parks when they were at Redfin Roundup, came up to a lot of us anglers and actually made the statement that they were going to provide a fish cleaning table for Oberon Dam because a lot of the anglers required one, and they were actually supplying them at Carport and other freshwater inland waterways where anglers frequent. And I actually sent that query through to Matt and also to Deborah to chase up the gentleman that made that promise. And he then sent through the grant and said to apply for it that way. But I will be hitting him up at this Redfin Roundup and saying, you know, you made the promise, make good on it.
Anyone else? So I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Passed. Status of resolutions. Recommendations, item 14.8 is received as information. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you.
Anyone want a second? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do have a few queries. I'm wondering if there's an update on 1521 109 21, which is on page 320. The detail of the Australian Housing Bill, have we got that yet? And other opportunities for council?
So through the chair, the bill's been pushed through the upper house and now goes through the bureaucracy of government. But as I've indicated there, regardless of that, we're going to proceed. So
how are we? So with that, okay. So regardless, where are we at the moment with the land at 35?
So we have a standardised plan, and we'll just go out and try and get some quotes to see how much that would be.
So we're going out with an RFT, what, in
Yep.
December?
It wouldn't be, on land, on building, we'd have to have a look and see. Yeah, it would have to go through that tender process, yeah.
So they have to go to an RFT, so that will be issued in when, November, December?
I think that I've indicated that those three are looking to go in November.
Yeah, I think you have on the, some of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, so it's going November. There's a land transfer in the next one, 14150222, been finalised yet, because we had the person, I think, on secondment, then I think they came back and they were progressing it. It's 14150222, yeah.
So my understanding is that is progressing to finalisation now. I'll just chase that up. It was with the former director, so I'll chase it up on.
Yeah, and I think the person who was doing, I think it was a training opportunity in the.
Yeah, so there's a couple there, but with the transition of people in that space, it's getting more and more difficult to do that. So it may be, we just have to get someone to come in and do that to finalise the matter. There's a couple that we'd like to do to, in fact, value add to cement some of our staff so they can deal with them moving forward.
Oh, absolutely, but they have been going on for some time.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I said. It was with the director. He's not here anymore. I'll chase that up in terms of what that requires.
So for the one on the top of 323, which is the residential land development, the DA was finalised in October, and that's going to be uploaded. That's uploaded
to the portal.
Right. So that now, where do we go with that? Once it's
also, we'll lodge an application. We haven't lodged it at this point in time.
Oh, we haven't lodged a DA.
No, that's on me. But we'll lodge the DA and go through the DA process for a subdivision of that land.
Okay, so because it says DA finalised in October, I thought, oh, right, we're going out to RFT.
No, the DA preparation, so the statement I've prepared on behalf of council.
So the DA is prepared and it's been lodged?
I haven't lodged it yet because I haven't had a conversation with my director to give him the heads up that a council application is being lodged by a council and there's a process that he also needs to go through.
Okay, the industrial land, so it says 10th of October, tender finalised. Is that tender or the RFT?
So the
request for tender?
Yeah, the request for tender. We've got all the information we need to lodge it in the portal now.
So we've uploaded it. When do we expect the tender? When are we asking for the tenders to be back?
So we'll give them that period.
So they'll be back
November, December, back for January. For February.
Okay. So can I ask, when we talk about where it's an RFT, we talk about an RFT because I always think the tender is what the response you get. Okay. Sorry, that's my. Yeah.
No, it's also a different terminology.
Yeah. Okay. When page 327, the bullying positive workforce relations policy, because it's quite an important policy, the working group established to critique it. When's it likely to be to a state that will come to council?
So there's a number of our policies, like our complaints handling, our wellbeing, our enforcement, those sort of things need to be all looked at to make sure we've got some consistency across those policies. We have established a group to be able to have a look at that. It's just when they get together and hash out what that looks like. So I haven't put a date on that at this point in time, but we'll look to finalise that.
Okay, because I remember there was some inconsistencies in the policy, in particular the complaints policy that then.
It wasn't that individually they didn't work. It was trying to link them with this new one that had the creative issue.
And also there wasn't actually in the complaints one. There wasn't an ability. It didn't state that we could go out to independent persons to bring them in specifically. It was implied, but not specific.
Yeah, there is a number, and in this instance, the OLG are also looking at standardising these types of things as well to create it consistently across local government rather than have individual ones. So that also forms part of our view when we have a look at it.
So the next one, which is, sorry, not next one, the next one, which is the curbside garbage collection. Have we now gone out with an RFT for that?
No, as you
We had the waste
always
workshop.
been around, we've had the waste workshop, and there's been a number of recommendations brought in place in that.
Yes.
One of those main ones is to have our contractor come back, our consultant come back and develop that process, so we're in fact talking to our community about the right things. So that's what we're in the process of doing. Now with Chris not being here, I didn't think it was really good to throw on to David at this point in time, so we have had some slippage in that regard because of the transition out of the director.
So the curbside waste tender is obviously going to be in abeyance for a while.
The curbside waste tender will need to have a look at to make sure that we have the ability to bring it back if we need to.
Yeah, right, okay. Sorry, and the next one is the reef amenities. There's a comment there, the closeout report to be provided to November meeting. I don't think it has, and I'm assuming that it's going to be now delayed till December, is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Because I haven't seen the reports, and I noted that the planning director's report said it was still in progress,
That's through the chair.
That's no late till December.
It is very close to being finalised, it's just that final bit that Damien's working towards.
I'm very happy to see that we've now closed that matter on the Black Springs thing.
The special one we brought back just for you.
So the next one on 331, second from the bottom, which is 1909-23. And that's the one we just talked to with Matt.
That's right.
Is that correct? It's under the issue of delegates to council committees? The heading?
Through the chair, that's where it was introduced because of the way the committee was set up.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, right.
So that's how it formed the resolution as it sits.
Okay. And steam through now. Page 337, Oberon SDP construction. When did the RFT go out to potential construction companies?
My understanding, I'd have to take that on notice, it's with Gaz, so my understanding is it's being prepared and he is talking to particular providers of STPs around being open to that.
So is it going to go out by the end of November?
Absolutely. It's earmarked for next week.
Okay.
In fact, it's probably absolutely going to go out next week.
Right.
That's how close it is.
Okay, fine. No, that's good, because we said, we were told it's going to go out in November. I just want to check because it's crucial. 339, the last page. So where are we with the Weybridge? When's the delivery date for Weybridge?
It was with Chris. Dave, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I've through the chair, I have been talking to the contractor that's going to install the Weybridge. They need to come on site, and I have arranged several meetings that they've fallen through, but what they need to do is come and look, do the civil works, the geotech works to where the Weybridge is going to do. So the first step is to work out where we're going to put it and look at the geotechnical information that it can go in that spot. And then after that, we'll start implementing the Weybridge.
So do we do the geotech ourselves, or we get Quarry Geotech or something?
They've got their own.
Oh, okay, they have their
So-
own. It's all packaged. All packaged, right. Yeah. So do we anticipate that it will be installed by the end of the year?
I don't think it'll be by the end of the year. It depends on the geotechnical report and about the ordering of the Weybridge. The first thing I need to do is to actually have a meeting on site, and it was meant to happen last week. It didn't happen, so I'll have to ring him again and see when we can firmly meet and go through all the details of the installation of that Weybridge.
Because I thought one of our considerations in the tender evaluation was the ability to deliver on time and delivery and installation, and we thought that was one of our why they want the tender.
To be honest, councillor, the contract's there, like.
I know you've signed it, yeah.
We'll be implementing the contract as it sits, so if, as David said, if he's contacted the contractor and the contractor's not being progressive, we're more than happy to take that. So.
No, I'm just interested, it'd be nice to have it in by the end of the year, so we can send
I
them
think
off.
that our benefit of this is to have it in as soon as we possibly can. We know that.
Thank you, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Only a few items.
I think we should just supply you this as a personal document. Councillor Tucker. I had to go back to mine.
I have fewer items. Page 331 in the middle, where it talks about the performance review panel for the GM. So we know who the panel is. Just wondering, for the 5 of us who are not on the panel, if any of us want to submit any comments, what's the process for that?
The facilitator will be speaking to all councillors individually and providing any comments by that method.
All right, and we'll get something in advance of that, like, are the assessment criteria the same as last year, for example?
The assessment criteria are in accordance with the General Manager's performance agreement.
So exactly the same as listed last year?
Well, not exactly the same, I think it's slightly different from what we had previously, but you have it on the portal, I understand?
Oh, I think it's on the portal.
Yeah. Okay. It's not a confidential document until it's filled in.
And second question, just following on from Councillor McKibben on the sewage treatment plant. I was going to ask the same stuff. The bit that wasn't answered was, have we received all the final documentation?
Yeah, the document's at 95%.
Wasn't it at 95% a month ago?
80%. It was 80% a month ago.
This is PWA doing this stuff.
This is PWA, and don't get me started.
Right, but even with the 5%, we're still...
PWA will say nothing will ever be 100%. They'll say it's 95% because then that gives them the ability to say, I will rejig this. Like a tenderer might come back and say, oh, what about this instead of that? And that's why they will never say
but that
it's
5%
100%.
is not going to stop it going out to tender by the end of November.
Absolutely. It will go out at 95%.
That was all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else?
It's just on page 328, the Bailey's Bridge thing. It says that the thing's complete in October. At the end, I thought the end awnings were part of the bridge.
The end caps.
The end caps and the things that are there leave us exposed. If you watch the RMS, if any time they got a blunt railing like there, they put a bag of sand in front of it. But yeah, when do we anticipate these 4 ends are coming?
Yeah, it's through the chair. That will be done. I haven't organised it yet. That got left out with the previous director. I thought he'd ordered it, so I'll follow that up. We're talking about the ends for the railings.
Yeah, I thought they were part of the system because Chris said $7,000 each, that was all, and
yeah,
they were part of it. So anyway,
I'll have to follow that up.
Okay. So it's not going to be done by December, as indicated on the schedule.
Yeah, look, I don't know.
We'll take that on notice and come back to you. If there is a safety risk in that and we haven't done that, it's something we need to look at as part of our operations.
Yeah. Just to get some of these finished, that's all I'm getting at.
We'd like to think we get a lot of these things finished.
Is there anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Passed. Item 14.8, the Paddling Yards Wind Farm submission. The recommendation is that item 14.8 is received as information. Councillor Tucker, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep, I'm happy enough with the submission. where it doesn't either support or oppose the project. I think that the comment makes it reasonable and happy to receive it as information.
Councillor Hayden?
I concur with that and happy to receive it as seconded, thank you.
Councillor Tremba?
Well, I'd just like to compliment the General Manager on the submission. It's very detailed, and I did have feedback from a number of people in the community saying exactly the same thing, appreciating how much detail, how much work had gone into our submission. It wasn't just a one-liner, but covered up a lot of areas, even though the EIS was very deficient. They appreciated the effort that we put into it, so just give you that feedback.
I think it tried a very difficult line very appropriately.
Well, it
showed
there was glaring omissions and deficiencies in the EIS, and even blind Freddie, and that's me, could pick them all out. So.
And in the consultation process.
And the consultation process, it was marvellous, really was. And so this is where the basis of the interesting conversations we had with the Department of Planning. Okay, anyone else? Put the motion? Passed. All right, there's no urgent business. However, we have some confidential business. So in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993 and the Local Government Act General Regulations 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is the kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with in part of the meeting as closed to the media and the public. Can I move or second to take us into confidential? Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Can you stop recording now, please? Good evening, it's 10:02 and we are coming back into open council. During the period we're in closed council, there were two resolutions passed. Item 16.1, legal and consultancy fees. And the recommendation is that the report item 16.1 is received as information. The other item is item 16.2, Australia Day Citizenship Awards 2024. The recommendations are that Australia Day awards be made in the following categories: Citizen of the Year, Young Citizen of the Year, persons up to 25 years of age, Sports Person of the Year, and Junior Sports Person of the Year, Sports Team of the Year, Community Event of the Year, Volunteer or Volunteer Group of the Year, and Environmental Champion of the Year. And item 2, that the invitation be extended to all award nominees, councillors and management staff and their partners to meet the Australia Day Ambassador and partner at a function on the evening of the 25th of January 2024 to be held at Red Ground, Australia. That 2024 Australia Day celebrations be held at the Oberon Library and Community Centre. At 10:02, I declare the meeting closed. The next meeting will be at the Oberon Council Chambers on the 19th of December 2023, commencing at 5:30. Thank you those people who are joined by Zoom, and have a good evening. Thank you, councillors.